Okay, so welcome to our fourth workshop. I can't believe it's mid-September. We start term at Oxford in 2 weeks. Anyways, and thanks to everyone who showed up today. The agenda for today, we're going to go over the deadlines one more time because they are important. We're going to review two of the critical thinking types, just very briefly one more time as a group. These two types were the two types of questions that people had most trouble with, it seemed like. We will just talk about problem solving strategies one more time, and we'll go over one of the TSA problems together as a group. And then we'll break out. I'll break out into two groups. There will be one group for the 2016 paper, and there'll be one group for the 2017 paper. And we will do the questions. We've already pre-selected questions based on your feedback from that form that everyone did. We just looked at which questions people were most nervous on, and we chose those ones. And then we'll come back together for some concluding remarks. During this process, if you have questions, please feel free to unmute yourself. We prefer cameras on, please, so that it doesn't feel like we're speaking to a wall. And also, if you have a question, we prefer that you ask it out loud. You can raise your hand and ask it out loud, because when we review this recording in the future, or for people who couldn't be here, they can't see what questions you put into the chat box. So if you ask it out loud, then that allows for future participants to have their possibly exact questions answered as well. So we have 27 days until the UCAS deadline. This number has fallen very quickly from like in the hundreds down to 27. A lot of people have emailed me letting me know that they have all sorts of commitments coming up, like exams, mock exams, EPQs, school prep, whatever it may be, family work. So it's really important that people keep an eye on this deadline. You don't want to let it creep up on you, and do not wait until the last days to do anything. You don't want to pressure yourself like that. With that being said, we have 47 days until the TSA. So one of them is the deadline for the actual application, and then you have 47 days to prepare. Everyone here is getting a head start already. I know that when I was preparing for the TSA, I was preparing sort of in the last maybe 20 to 10 days. And that doesn't really create the best results for everybody. So you definitely are way ahead by taking the initiative to be here and prepare so far in advance. And that's why we are telling everyone that if you're not getting the scores you want to now, that you shouldn't feel discouraged, because that's why you're here. That's why we have the workshops, so that you have time to improve. And it's very possible to raise your score in a very meaningful way by putting the time and effort in. So application deadlines, we know these application deadlines already. 15th of October, don't forget. If you're an international student, please don't forget to properly register for the TSA. I had to fly to a different state to take my test because the centers around me were all completely full. But yeah, there are some crazy circumstances. I've heard of people in like Singapore go to a different country to take the TSA. So you have to really like organize that in advance. Do not wait. Now is a good time to contact the centers. Registration is open, and you can pay and get a confirmation number that you're registered for the TSA. Okay. The TSA is far more important than personal statements. And I know a lot of you guys have been spending a considerable amount of time on personal statements. They're turning out really great. You can really tell that people are putting effort into them, but don't forget that the TSA in terms of getting to an interview is so much more important. And if you are forced to choose between working on your TSA and your personal statement, work on your TSA. The personal statement, it's important because you don't want to seem incompetent, but at the same time, like, they're not going to make a decision between two people based on how deep your analysis on books were. They're more interested in looking at your TSA score. So please don't spend too much time on your personal statements. And above all else, because we may not necessarily see each other before the Oxford application deadline, it's important to be authentic. This is a process in which you can show off what you can do, your existing accomplishments, your future potential, your personal character, and sort of your voice, right? And you want to make sure that you appreciate the process and enjoy yourself, I think, along the way. I know that sounds a little bit crazy, but you know, as a reapplicant, the first time it didn't work out for me, I was like, you know, well, damn, this is not nice. But I didn't feel like I was being fake, or I was being, you know, stretching myself to somewhere I didn't want to be. So just be true to yourself, because this process is not going to work out for everybody here, and you know, you want to stay true to yourself in the process. Okay, so critical thinking. We can't stress this enough. You got to know the question types. There are 7 question types. Critical thinking are super predictable question types. We reviewed the time it took for everybody to finish the 25 critical thinking questions, because for the 2016 paper, when I sent out the homework, I requested that everybody do the critical thinking questions first, so that your mind was sort of in the critical thinking mindset. And the average time was like around 20 minutes. So that's not bad at all. 20 minutes to do 25 questions. It's super quick. Obviously, take the time you need if you feel like you're not getting the right answers. But if you're getting the right answers, more or less, and you're getting 25 questions done in 20 minutes, that leaves you 70 minutes to do 25 problem solving questions. And that's going to be really in your favor. So make sure you know the question types. I've highlighted where we discussed these question types before. And if you need additional help and you want to go back and review, the videos are on YouTube. And you can tell that people prepare for the TSA late, because I've noticed that the views for the videos have suddenly jumped up in the past week. That's because everybody is starting to search like how to do TSA. So anyways, I think we're up to like nearly 500 views on one of the videos. So yeah, people are definitely starting to review, but everyone here has a head start, a many months long head start. Okay, identify an assumption. This is a question type that I know during workshop 3 people had trouble with, and based on the responses from the form, a lot of people said they didn't quite understand this format. So just briefly, you have to remember that when you're identifying the assumption is not in the argument. Okay, so you know, if you're assuming something, then it's taken for granted, right? It's not actually said by the author, but it's one of those things that is implied, implicit, or otherwise sort of like obvious. And it also goes to say that it's an assumption is one of those things where if it were not assumed, or if the opposite of the assumption were true, the whole argument kind of falls apart or becomes very weak. And above all else, you have to remember the reason why we practice identify the main conclusion first was because you have to identify the conclusion first. And once you identify the conclusion, then you can figure out which one of the answers was best used to support that conclusion. So if your identify the main conclusion skills are weak, you're not going to have a great time with this type of question. Catherine, do you have anything to add to that? I don't know if, because I know you guys did this question during a workshop too.
No, I think that was a pretty good summary. I mean, if anyone's got any more questions, I'm happy to, like, you know, send me a message or just ask when we're doing the breakout rooms. But yeah, that was pretty much it.
Okay, so let's do this quick question together. This was one of the questions from the 2016 paper that a lot of people got wrong. So, and I think Theo, you did this one, right? So no. Okay.
I thought you told me to do question 31 instead of this.
That's right, because I'm going to do this one. Right.
Okay, perfect.
So, okay, 29. So yeah, please, I'm going to shut up and please read this real quick and let us know what you think the answer is. Okay. This one is definitely not easy. So I don't want anybody to panic too much if you don't really know the answer off the bat. Can someone walk us through this from the group? Maybe, oh, where's all the name tags? That's weird. Can somebody just volunteer? I can't see names anymore. I recognize some of you, but yeah, can someone just do this?
I could do it if no one wants to.
Great, thanks. Whoever's speaking. Yes, please do.
So basically the main conclusion I'd say is the last sentence. So if only people work towards having honest conversations, staff turnover might decrease. And I just kind of thought that if only people worked towards using that, it's just kind of assuming that people aren't already honest. So I answered C.
Yeah, this one is really tough because the sentence is rambly, and that's why you really have to be organized. You have to find the main conclusion first. This was kind of tough for me because actually when I did this homework earlier this week, I was like, wait a second, I thought the first sentence sounded like a main conclusion. But then I looked at the last sentence and I'm thinking, okay, can I do the therefore test, right? So the number one reason for people changing their jobs is to escape from difficult people. Then I put therefore, if only people work towards having honest conversations with those difficult people, staff turnover might decrease. And I thought, okay, well, that means the last sentence is more of a main conclusion than the first sentence is. And the first sentence is more of a premises, right? A premises that sets up the final argument there. It's background information that it's the number one reason. So remember, like, assumptions are things that are obvious. So in this case, it's pretty much obvious that if the main conclusion is saying that people really ought to have honest conversations with difficult people, then you have to assume that they're not currently having those discussions, right? That they're currently being dishonest. Otherwise, why would you be suggesting this main conclusion, right? Why would you be offering this advice if people were already being honest? So that's what an assumption is. Does that make sense for anybody? Does anybody did anyone think it was a different answer? Maybe we can talk about why it wasn't one of the other answers.
I had chosen A because of the one sentence about the unmet expectations. I'm not quite sure why A isn't the correct one. I understand why C is the correct one, but I don't quite understand why A is incorrect.
Yeah, I think the paragraph isn't actually talking about people not meeting expectations because the expectations were unrealistic or realistic. So they're not talking about expectations not being met by virtue of how difficult or feasible the expectations were. The paragraph says, very often they're entirely in our heads. We put the responsibility for knowing the expectations onto the difficult person, right? So basically, we expect other people to read our minds and we don't tell them what our expectations are. If people work towards talking with the difficult people about what these expectations are, then we could reduce the staff turnover. So I think it's, you obviously have to choose the best answer. I think A is slightly assumed, but it's not as assumed as C is, because you have to think about sort of what the paragraph is actually talking about. And in this case, it's not really talking about the sort of achievability of your expectations. It's talking about the communication of the expectations, if that makes sense. This one's tough. If you guys can get this one, I think maybe is one of the toughest identify and assumption questions on the past papers that we've seen so far. If there's one thing you can take away from this, perhaps it's what an assumption is, the structure of an assumption, rather than this particular paragraph. This paragraph is difficult, and I think the answer choices are difficult. So don't panic too much. Okay, we're going to go over the next question type. Assess additional evidence. So this is these are those questions that say like which of the following, if true, most weakens the above argument, right? And then they give you A to E, and you have to check those against the main conclusion. If you're looking for the thing that weakens the main argument, then anything that concurs with it or strengthens it is obviously not correct. And you also have to ignore attempts to weaken things that are not related to the argument, right? It might sort of cite some hypocritical information or something like a little bit controversial, and it tricks you into thinking that that's sort of the aha, I gotcha, you know, that's the thing that most weakens the above argument. But you have to really be careful not to choose things that are not related to the main conclusion. And again, you have to identify the main conclusion. So anyways, let's go over question 41 from the 2017 paper. And then we'll talk about this as a group. Okay, let's see. Is Zara in this chat?
Yeah.
Hey, can you do this question, please? Can you talk to us about what answer you got?
Well, I thought that the answer would be B.
Okay.
Because it cited evidence at the beginning that basically supports the whole argument that in whatever disasters may happen, that life will actually be more rich and diverse. But if the evidence is attacked, I felt it could make the argument fall apart. But I'm not sure.
So the question does ask you what most weakens the above argument, right? Like what sort of undermines your logic is correct and your reasoning is correct, but I don't think you've chosen the one that most weakens the argument, because you did say that it sort of weakens the premises for the argument, right? It weakens the evidence that leads to the main conclusion. But what did you say the main conclusion was in this sentence, in this paragraph?
The last sentence. So
yeah,
never disasters.
Right. So the evidence can be sort of contradicted, but perhaps you want to look for something that is more related to the main conclusion and undermines the entire thing. So can you talk to us about the other answer choices?
Well, so C says human technology will soon be advanced enough to prevent most natural catastrophes. I mean, it doesn't really talk about human technology, and like prevention, I don't think is really the where it should attack the argument.
Right.
Well,
yep. Because it's not talking about actually like this paragraph is not about natural disaster prevention, right? It's talking about the effects of the disasters, man-made disasters. It's not talking about preventing them, so that's not really relevant. How about D?
Some species are able to withstand the most extreme forms of environmental change. Um, I mean, if some species are able to withstand like change, I don't see how that would affect the argument, because it's saying, well, it's saying that whatever happens, that more developed species would arise despite
Yeah.
like the any disasters. So I don't think.
So it strengthens the argument, right? It strengthens the argument that species can survive and increase in maybe perhaps increase in richness and diversity. It actually supports that argument, so it can't be correct. And how about E and then A?
So if some species have died out due to dramatic changes in climate, so if some species had died out, I mean, I don't really see how that could be relevant, because it's like, if some species have died out, it's still the argument that other species will arise that are better. It still doesn't attack it, but I don't think it really attacks it.
Yeah. Okay. So can you go over A?
So the consequences of a global nuclear holocaust. In that case, I mean, a nuclear holocaust don't really, I guess, like, it could be related to mass extinction, but I could see how it could weaken the argument if you said that the consequences are not known, but I can't understand how it would relate exactly to say mass extinction. And yeah, I'm struggling with this question. I don't really see the clear answer.
I think it's you know, if you really just read the main conclusion, the final sentence, it says whatever disasters we may wreak on the planet. So it's basically saying that we can do anything, and life in the long term will not only survive. And I think you have to think about like the fact that we that argument is between A and B. The argument of whatever disasters will not affect life in the long term. A is not known because we have that's not happened in the history of the earth before, right? Global nuclear holocaust has not happened before. So the argument of whole like, oh yeah, well, we studied the you know, past history of the earth through fossils, and we study these natural events or whatever that caused species to die out and then come back. We don't really know what would happen in a global nuclear holocaust. I'm having trouble explaining this one. I don't know, maybe Catherine or Theo, you can step in, but
yeah, I think often with the TSA questions, they're not perfect, and there can be multiple answers which could feasibly be correct, and it's just about picking the one which is the most correct. So sometimes you're going to get into a situation like that in the exam, and you just have to make a judgment between the two. But again, like you did with you, sort of ruling out answers that are obviously irrelevant, like C, D, and E, can help. And then on aggregate, you know, you'll get more marks by guessing if you can rule out the irrelevant ones. So that's the only advice I can really give here.
Yeah, thanks for mentioning that, by the way, because that's important on the test. If you're down to 2 answers, a 50-50 shot is not bad chances, you know, compared to a 1 in 5 shot, 20% shot in the dark. Yeah, you have to even if you can't draw precise conclusions about dates from fossil records, that doesn't really affect maybe you know, one of the other arguments is that doesn't affect sort of the conclusions that are drawn, right? Like even if the dates aren't precise, perhaps we can still conclude through the fossil records that life comes back and increases richness and diversity. It doesn't say the fossils are inaccurate. It just says that the dates may not be as accurate as we previously stated. So the answer there is A. And thank you for explaining. Okay. problem solving. So this is a slide from the last workshop, but as we mentioned, problem solving is less predictable and less structured. I hope you guys are starting to pick up on some of the question types because they are quite predictable. The second to last type there, that I am looking for A but not B, C but not D, E but not F. A lot of people struggled with those for some reason. So we're going to talk about that in the breakout groups. But that's sort of like where you need to narrow. They give you a ton of information. Those are the problem solving questions that take up the whole page. Well, I guess it's not going to be a page on the digital exam, but it takes up the whole practice paper. And it says something like, I want to buy a laptop. I want to buy the one with 2 gigabytes memory, but the 13-inch screen. I won't take anything that's more than $1,000, blah, blah, blah. And you have to go and eliminate the irrelevant information. That should be one of the easiest question types. So we definitely are going to go over that today in breakout groups. And if you have trouble with that, let us know so that we can help you resolve that. That should be one of the quickest question types for you to do, because all you're doing is applying given information to given data. Okay. Oh, and by the way, spatial reasoning. We talked about this just the hosts. Spatial reasoning are questions that sort of happen in a 3-dimensional space, whether that's the die folding or the nets. So the nets would be the, folding is like folding dice, but folding die, that is, but instead with like more complex shapes. Or there's the ones where it's like, what is my view if I look at a 3D object from this direction or from this direction? Those may not come up on this year's exam. They were not on last year's exam because it was on the computer, but who knows? Cambridge Assessment have not taken it out of the question guide. So that means that they're not explicitly ruling it out as a question type. You need to know how to answer these questions. And to be honest, the spatial reasoning is one of those that it doesn't hurt to know the answer. It's like, if you know how to solve it, you'll get it. It's worth the investment to know how to approach these question types, okay? Scratch paper is your friend. On the exam, you can use an unlimited amount of scratch paper, okay? And wherever you take the exam, you can even bring your own scratch paper if they allow you to, just blank sheets of paper. If you think about it, there's only 25 questions. It's 12 pieces of paper, front and back. We're not gonna chop down a forest for that. Use the whole piece of paper. Don't confuse yourself. I remember something I struggle with scratch paper was organization. Sometimes I put more than one question on the same piece of paper, and then I'm like, well, hold on a second, what question was this for? So show your work, write down the question number, write down your work. And this way, let's say you start calculating something and you're in between 2 answers, you can write the 2 answers down on your scratch paper and then flip ahead, go do the other questions, then come back and then continue where you left off. For dice folding questions, don't forget, you can rip the paper out. You can make the shapes with your scratch paper. So if you get super confused, last case resort is to rip the paper out and fold your own dice. And then you can write nets there. Okay. So they don't tell you that, but there's nothing, nothing preventing you from doing that. Okay. Let's go over this problem solving question. This was on the 2017 paper. Let's see. Did we assign this? Yeah. Okay. Well, this was part of the
I did this. If
you did this one, Milo. Okay. Thank you.
Just let me pull up my notes.
Can you call on someone and just
yep.
Do this? I'm gonna ask to unmute somebody here. Hold on.
Yeah. If you could just
yeah. There we go.
Is there anyone who's keen to, or just pick a random name?
Whoever was asked to unmute, please unmute yourself and do this question.
I think I did this a really long way, and I don't know if I feel like I'm okay.
Tell us.
I
please.
did this a really long way. I basically got it all into the 1 serving portion for a price. So for the 12
sorry, Milo, do you have the question on the iPad or?
Yeah, I've got my notes on my iPad. Just
okay. Do you want me to share
you stuff to write up in a minute if we
fine.
need to?
Okay, let me. Sorry, whoever's speaking. What's your name?
Susie.
Sorry, Susie. Okay, right. Sorry, I can't see names for some reason today. Let me. Yeah. Okay, sorry, Susie. Please proceed. I'm just working on connecting my iPad so I can follow along with your work. But go ahead, please.
So for the local pet shop, when you get it down into one serving, you do 12/6, which is £2 per serving, and then the 400-gram packet to get it to 25 grams, it'd just be 25p. So for one serving from the pet shop, it's like £2.25. And then this is where I think I did it a really long way, because I did it for the 4 boxes as well. So I did £62.40. That ends up, so in the 4 boxes of 24 sachets of wet food, that is 96 sachets, and we want that down to 2. So I think I divided by 4 and then by 12. So 62.40 divided by 4 was 31.20/2, which got down to.
Oh, what was 62.40 divided by 4?
31.20/2. I have to do it this way because I'm not very good at mental math.
Yeah, that's
okay.
A reasonable way to do it.
And then that ends up being £15.60. And then I divided that by 12, which was difficult. And I'm trying to do it now. So first I got it to 790/2 again. Oh no, 790/6. And tried to do that.
I divided it by 12 first, because 62.4 divided by 12, you get 5.2, which is a bit faster.
Oh, how would you do that? Sorry.
Oh, I did the exact same thing you did, but I just divided it by 12 first and then divided it by 4. I think that's a bit easier.
Divided by 12.
It depends if people are good at mental
I'm not
math.
good at.
I think it's just your own personal way, which way round you choose, whichever way you find easier. But essentially, yeah, you get down.
Why not divide immediately by 48? Continue, Susie, please.
I'm finding this really hard. Sorry.
Okay. You just said 780 divided by 6, right? Which is
Which is it £1? No.
It's £1 something.
£1.30.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And then I did this other one, which was considerably easier, which was £16 over into 2 kilograms. I think that ended up with 20p for a single serving. And then you did the difference, which was 75p.
Exactly. That's exactly how I did it. I don't think there's a quicker way. I think you've just got to.
I think the thing for this question was the trick, right? The trick was the 4 boxes, right? Because some people read this question and they think 24 of them cost 62.40, but in fact it's 4 boxes of 24, so you have to do 4 times 24. That in total costs 62.40. If you didn't do that, you're going to get a much higher answer.
And also just remembering to actually find the difference, because if you have a look, they've put D £1.50, which is the new cost, as sort of a trick to try and make you think, oh, I've done all these calculations, that must be the answer. But actually, you've got to remember to do that final step of finding the difference.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, thank you for the working that out. And also, this is one of those like route, what do you call it? Arithmetic questions. You gotta crunch through the numbers and remember, like sometimes when it's not this straightforward, I think I'm pretty good at mental math, to be honest, but I will work backwards. So I'll go from £1.30 and I'll multiply by 6 or by, 48 again, or something like that. I'll just do long multiplication just to check my answer if I have extra time. But yeah, don't be afraid of actually, this is why you do the critical thinking quick, do math. Okay, all right. Let me go back to the presentation. Okay, so let's break out into the groups. Catherine and Theo will be in the first group and they'll do the 2016 paper. And Milo and I will be in the 2017 group. We're going to budget for like, I want to say 35 to 45 minutes. Let us get through the questions first. If you guys have any questions after that, please feel free to, actually, you know what? Let's do the breakout groups first. If anybody has questions after, I'm happy to stay behind with any other hosts that can stay behind, and we can work those out with anyone who wants to stay afterwards. But I want to sort of keep the core time. Okay, so let's oh, and guys, please, for God's sake, like, actively participate. Okay, like, why are you here instead of watching the recording? Because you want to participate, right? And really, a lot of people, they have trouble at interview because they can't explain their thinking, right? You got to explain your thinking. You have to practice speaking out loud. Please actively participate. Okay, so let's break out, please, and remember to screen record. Yes.
Yep. Do that. All right. Okay. Opening the rooms now. So we're looking at the 2016 paper. If you want to get that up. Okay. So the first question that you asked me to go through is question 14, because apparently this is the question that most people have got wrong out of all of the responses he got. Did anyone in the group get this wrong? Okay, Susie. Do you want to unmute and tell me why you got it wrong? Or what your thoughts were behind the question?
So I was just trying to go as quickly as possible because this was one of the questions I looked at. And I was like, I'm not going to be able to work this out quickly. So I'm going to try and narrow it down. And I think in the end, I put C, even though it's really obvious where C goes.
I think that is the worst answer to put.
Yeah, I know. I think when I was looking at the screen on my computer, I didn't. And I worked out where E and A could go. And then I just kind of assumed B and D would fit somewhere on the O and thought, well, the last answer, I'd fill in C. And now I realize that was a bad move.
Yeah, I appreciate the honesty. I think you're looking at this question now, it's really obvious to you. And if you were doing it as just a puzzle in the newspaper, everyone will be able to get this correct. But it just happens that sometimes you get a bit stressed or flushed in the TSA paper. And so you're rushing through questions and you get them wrong, when a question like this, everyone is able to get this right. So I think the takeaway from this is try not to get stressed and flushed during the TSA paper so you don't throw away these easy marks, because you think, question 14, this question has the same worth as some of the really difficult questions on this paper, and you can get this right within 10 seconds. So it's a really easy mark to bag. So just make sure that you're getting the easy questions right, because that's going to improve your score just as much as getting a hard question right. So don't throw it away. So I assume there aren't any other questions for that. I've color coded it so you can see where the tiles fit in, and there's nowhere for B, which means that B is the right answer. So we'll move on to question 16 here. I'll read out the question, then if someone wants to volunteer to go through it. So the funding situation for educational provision in UK prisons is a national disgrace. Prisons provide free room and board, and inmates are frequently given access to the internet, cable TV, and gym facilities. At the same time, lengthy waiting lists exist for prison literacy classes, and ever-increasing budget cuts put pressure on prison library resources. Meanwhile, it's estimated that at least half of UK prisoners possess a reading age of 11 or less. If society wants to reduce the chances of prisoners reoffending upon their release, we must give them the opportunity to develop the literacy skills they need to build a successful life outside prison. Okay, it's a long paragraph. Does someone want to volunteer to take me through the answers for this?
I could do it.
Yep.
So the conclusion was the last sentence. I mean, it's conveniently highlighted. But if society wants to reduce the chances of prisoners reoffending, we must give them the opportunity to develop the literary skills. So like the whole entire passage above it was kind of talking about education, or like specifically like the first sentence, the funding for educational provision. And then it spent most of the passage talking about literary, like library resources. And then the last sentence focused on literary skills. So going through it, I chose B because it kind of connected the two with like educational value and then specifically literary skills. It kind of connected the fact that educational value could only be found in literary skills and not in like the television and like TV cable stuff provided. I was going to put C originally, but then I like C sounded quite broad and more like a principle than like an assumption. So yeah, I went with B in the end.
Yeah, no, that's a great explanation behind your reasoning. So I agree. If you look at C and you look at E, these are fairly grandiose sentences which aren't immediately tied to the paragraph. Whereas when you look at answer B, it's already talked about how these prisoners have access to the internet, cable TV, gym facilities perhaps less relevant to the literacy bit. But the assumption is that they don't have the opportunity to develop the literacy skills at the moment. And we're assuming in that the internet or television doesn't have any educational value and they can't build literacy off that. So does that make sense to everyone? Or are there any other questions on question 16? No. Okay, then we'll move on to question 43. Okay, I'll read through it and then again someone can volunteer to go through it. So Mike wants to buy a second-hand car that offers the lowest depreciation per mile. He's not worried about the model. His family insists that the car has 4 or 5 doors and an engine of at least 1.6 litres so that it can tow a caravan. Mike plans to keep the car until it has covered 100,000 miles and then sell it for £1,000. He scans the following price list from his local garage. Okay, and then we have to pick which make of car Mike buys. Okay, does someone want to volunteer for this? Okay, Patricia, you have to go through this.
This is one of the questions which I saw had quite a lot of text and I was running out of time, so I didn't really do it, but I can try to do it.
Okay, yeah, I agree. You know, this is one of the questions you talked about that looks scary initially because there's a lot of information that's basically filling up the whole page, so it's tempting to skip it. But I hope that when we work through this, you can see that it's not as bad as it looks. So what's the first thing you do if you're going to answer this question?
I would look at the car doors, like the model, and that his family insists it must have 4 or 5 doors. So, yeah.
So do you want me to take out all of the ones with 3 doors?
Yes, please.
Okay, and what's your next move?
The engine, 1.6 liters.
So all of the ones with 1.4 have to go?
Yeah.
Okay, so what looked like a really long list of cars initially, we've actually narrowed down to just 4. So, just change my pen. So, what are you going to do with the 4 remaining cars?
I would probably look at how much it is worth and the miles it's got right now, and then calculate what it would be worth.
Yeah, so the question is worded with a very scary concept in it, which is depreciation per mile. But what it's actually asking us to do isn't as complicated. So he wants to know, what's the car going to cost to drive a certain number of miles on it? And so he knows, he makes it easy by telling us once he gets to 100,000 miles on the car, is going to sell it for £1,000. So the cost is just going to be the price of the car minus £1,000, which he's going to get back when he sells it. So do you want to tell me what the cost of each car, what the cost of driving each car is going to be to 1,000? What the cost of driving each car to 100,000 miles is going to be? If that makes sense.
So it'd be the price minus what it would take to sell, right?
Yeah.
So 6,000 for
Yep.
the Rover, and then 6,000 for the Renault also,
Mhm.
and 500 and 1,000.
Okay. And what next?
So then he scans. I don't know what I would do next.
Okay.
I'd probably just, no, honestly, I don't know.
Okay. So he's going to sell it once he gets to 100,000 miles. So we
Yeah.
want to know how many miles he's going to be able to drive each car for. So the first Rover, how many miles
Yeah.
is he going to be able to drive that car for?
70,000, and then 80,000,
Yep.
10,000, and 30,000.
Okay. So now we have
And
the
then
cost of each car, and we have how many miles we're going to be able to drive it for. So we want to work
And-
out the cheapest option out of these. Okay.
Then you probably would have to divide and see which one would cost less, right? Like which one you would be able to drive for more and cost less.
Yeah. So what would you do in this situation?
Once I have the mileage and the price, I don't know, I'd probably divide the mileage by the price.
Yeah. So one option is working out the ratios for each of them.
Yeah.
But I think a faster thing to do here would just to be to compare all of the options. So if we look at this Rover and we look at this Renault, in both options, we're paying £6,000.
Yeah, and the second one you drive more. Yeah, that
And the
makes
second one we
sense.
drive more. So we can immediately eliminate the first Rover. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So do you want to use a similar principle for the remaining three cars?
Yeah, so for the second, like the last two, right? When you drive 1,000 for 500, 130,000 for 1,000. So the second one is better because if you multiplied the first one, you would only get 20,000. So the second, like the Ford, is better than the Rover.
Yep. So we can eliminate that Rover. Okay.
So
Then how are
it's
you
the
going to
Ford
compare? Yeah. Go ahead.
or the Rover. I would take the Renault and make it like out of 1,000, like in price. So I'd be divided by 6, right? And so the Ford would be the better option.
Yeah, I think in this, once it got down to the last two, I just think the Fords cost £1,000, I get 30,000 miles. If it costs 6 times as much, how many miles would I get? And it would be 180,000, which is way more than the Renault. So we get the Ford as our final answer. Okay, so does that make sense now, Patricia?
No, it does.
Okay. Did anyone else have any questions on that question, or sort of what strategies did people do the full? If you got this right, did you use division together, or did you compare the answers at the end? Susie, what did you do?
Yeah, I basically did what you just did at the end. I didn't want to do any tricky division.
Yeah.
So I ended up just comparing those 4. So yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a good strategy. And when you see the multiple choice answers, one of the first things you should check is it asking for numbers here, or is it asking for the category? And if it's asking for numbers, then you know you need to be precise. But if it's all a relative thing, just comparing the different car models and finding out which one is best, then you can take some shortcuts on your maths, make it a little bit rough, because the numbers won't be really close that you're comparing. Okay. Final question, question 50. Did anyone get this question right and wants to take everyone else through it?
I think this is the 2016 one, right?
Yeah, 2016, question 50.
Yeah, I got it correct. I could walk it through.
Yeah, please.
So I kind of ignored like the pattern piece because I didn't feel it was relevant. But I drew out like a sketch of what each roll looked like. So it was, I'm looking here, it was 0.5 meters wide and then 10 meters long. The 10 meters long wasn't really like relevant at first because I was like, you still have to cut the pieces. And each pattern is repeating 60 centimeters. So dividing the 10 meters by 60 centimeters or 10 meters by 0.6. I forgot which number I got. I got like, sorry, I'm trying to do the math really quickly.
That's fine.
100 divided by 6. So I got like 16. So there's 16 repeating pattern lengths in like one roll. And it's 16 because like instead of like 16.5 because we it says somewhere we want each one to be made out of a single piece of paper. So 16, and then dividing the wall's width 6.2 by 6.2 divided by 0.5. What did I get? Is it on there?
So 60 divided by 5 is?
Yes, so 60 divided by 5 would be 12, yes.
Yep.
And then so we take the 16 full patterns that we got from the original, like the first calculation, and we see that the wall is 2.5 meters high. So 10 meters divided by 2.5 would give us 4. So a full row, like a full roll of wallpaper would give us a width of 4, like on the wall, if that makes sense. Right?
I'm not following. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so the wall is 2.5 meters high.
Yep.
And each roll is 10 meters long.
Yep.
So a single roll would cover 4 widths.
4 drops? So like
Yeah,
the
4
things that are going down.
basically.
Okay, 4 drops.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then so like, yes, so when we look at like the I just lost my train of thought, sorry.
It's very hard going through this without sort of being able to draw on the paper
Yeah.
and take other people through it. But I want to pick up on something which is really important. You don't get 4 drops from the 10 meters because you have to have full patterns. So we have the wall here. So if we imagine this to be our wall, 6.2 meters wide, 2.5 meters high. This is the first roll that we're using. The full thing is 10 meters long. And the patterns are repeating every 60 centimeters. So if we imagine this as our first sort of drop down, we have the first pattern at 60 centimeters there. And the second one ends at 120. The third one ends at 180. The fourth one ends at 240. And then with the fifth one is going to end at 3 meters. Okay. But we have to use this whole 3 meter length. And this end bit is just going to be sacrificed because when we start using the next drop down, we need to start from a fresh pattern because it says the pattern on each drop matches the next. So we just have to sacrifice this bit at the end. Okay, does that make sense to people? Because this is the really important bit of the question. If anyone wants me to re-explain that, I'm happy to do so. Does that make sense?
I'm not sure I quite understand that bit.
Okay, yeah, no, thank you. I'll go through it again. Okay, so on this, the wallpaper comes in a roll and it's got patterns on it. And we've started using the first roll here, and we're putting the patterns down. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 patterns. 4 full patterns are fitting on this first drop. And then we have the 5th pattern here that's going to get cut off at the bottom. If we were going to get 4 drops out of each roll, so if we were just going to use 2.5 meters, we're going to have to cut off this pattern there. Does that make sense, Zara? But if we cut that off there, when we start again up here, that's not going to be at the start of a pattern because we're chopping off the pattern halfway there. So that's not a full pattern, so we can't do that. So we just have to sacrifice this extra 50 centimeters here, so that we're actually using 3 meters of material for each drop. And what this means is that we can now only get 3 drops out of each 10-meter roll, because each drop is 3 meters, not 2.5. So Tina, that's where I thought you were going wrong. You may have explained it later to me, but I just wanted to stop it there. So that means that we're only getting 3 drops out of each roll. And then we need 13 drops for the whole 6.2 meter length. So we're going to see 5 rolls, which will give us 15. So we need 5 rolls, each having 3 drops in it. It's going to give us 15 drops total. So we're going to have 2 spare, but 4 would leave us 2 short. So the final answer is C, 5 rolls. This is a really long question. And if I was doing this 2016 paper under time pressure, I'm not sure I would have got to question 50, let alone had enough time to go to do this whole working. So I wouldn't have worried about this question if I was doing it. I would have just guessed an answer and moved on. And if you're at that stage similar to that, you should just do the same thing in your TSA. Just guess the final few answers if you're not, if you don't have enough time to work them all through. I hope the method made sense for actually working out question 50, but again, I wouldn't worry about it too much. So unless there are more questions for that, we'll start moving on to Catherine's questions from the 2016 paper. Okay, so what's the first one, Catherine?
Question 31.
Okay.
Cool. Could someone unmute and talk me through this one? Sorry, I can't see names. I'm just going to click on someone else and to unmute.
Me, I think. So this was a really wordy question. And so at first I got it wrong, but then I think I might have gotten the thinking right. So basically what it says is that you have to choose the one which is the cheapest option, right?
Right.
And so I just have to reread the question. I can't remember.
Yeah, that's fine. No worries.
So from Monday to Friday, it is clearly cheaper than Saturday and Sunday, right? And it doesn't say whether it has to be from Monday to Friday or Saturday, Sunday, right? So they would choose Monday to Friday,
right?
I think. And then it also says that there is a discount for books. And from what I calculated, I don't have my calculus here, but I don't think it was cheaper than other options. I think it was like 300 or something like that. But I can't really remember. So what I looked at was the top part from Monday to Friday, obviously. And it said the balcony seats were 78.20 per person, and it said that they wanted 4 people. There were 4, right? And then the dress circle was obviously more expensive, so they wouldn't have chosen that. And then the grand circle too, and the orchestra was not cheaper, so I guess they would have chosen the balcony. That's my reasoning.
Great, yeah, thank you for talking it through. Yeah, so I think the approach there is the right one to take. This is one of those ones where they try and bog you down with like loads of information and it just takes you a long time to sift through. So the important thing here is just relevant, identifying the relevant information, right? So yeah, so the first thing to notice is they don't care when they go. Like it doesn't matter if it's Monday to Friday or the weekend, and all the weekday prices are cheaper, so we can just immediately like not look at the weekend prices. So once you figure that out, you've only got the weekday ones left, and then the other two options you have are the boxes or the discount on group booking. So yeah, it's pretty much from there, it's pretty straightforward. You can just like do the maths and figure out the cheaper option. But it's just about, you know, before you start just like cranking out sums and stuff, just check, see if you can kind of simplify it down to a few options and then go from there, I think. Unless anyone's got any questions, we can move on to question 48. Would anyone like to talk through this one? Or I'll just pick someone, I'll just ask someone to unmute.
Yeah, so I actually just guessed this question because I was running out of time and it didn't look nice to work out, but I think how you would do it would be to just, well, if Othello is 20 days, Hamlet 45 and Romeo 120, sort of find like the lowest common denominator of that, if you will, like sort of when they will all meet, which I guess would be
I'm going to stop you before you have to do all the math and stuff. Like that's what I did. That's fine. That's what I did the first time as well. And like, I think it makes sense when you look at it, but like the question is worded to catch you out because that like won't actually give you the right answer. Thank you for sharing that. That was great. And that's literally what I did the first time. So it's not like don't feel bad about it. But yeah, so this question actually asks, how often are the moons in line with each other in the order shown? So them being in line, that's quite important. So it doesn't mean necessarily they'll have to do like one complete orbit or two complete orbit or something like that, which is what you do for like a lowest common multiple question. They just all have traveled around the same amount of time. Right, exactly what Theo's saying. Like they could all be there, they could all be there. They could have all done like 3.5 orbits. They could have done like 4.7 orbits. It doesn't have to be like full orbits, which means that the lowest common multiple thing won't give you the right answer. So we don't care about them being in line. What we care about is like the proportion of each orbit that they've done. Because if they've all done the same proportion of their orbit, then they're all going to be like in the same position. Hopefully you can see that. Like if they all do half an orbit, they'll all be halfway around. And obviously that's going to be different at the time for each of them because the orbits are different lengths. So the way I looked at it, I can't say I've got like, I don't know if I've written it out nicely. I'll just try and find my notes. I'm sorry. Right, yeah, the way I looked at it was I just looked at the like the options like A, B, C, D, E and the length of days that it was, and figured out how many orbits each of the planets would have done on that length of time. So if you start with A, so 36 days, let's do Othello. So 36 over 20, that's like 1.8 full orbits. So Othello's go around 1.8 times. For Hamlet, we've got 36 over 45, which is 0.8. So it's done like 80% of one orbit. That's pretty good so far because that means they're both going to be in line. If that's unclear, just interrupt me, but hopefully you can see that. And then you check for the last planet, Romeo. So 36 over 120 is obviously not like 80%. So you kind of like, even just like without doing the actual sums, figure out what it is, you know that's not going to be correct, right? So we know it's not every 36 days. So I move on and try 72. So 72 over 20 is 3.6. So Othello will have done 3.6 orbits on the 72nd day. Where am I? Yeah, it's like 1.6 for Hamlet. So it will have done 1.6 full orbits. And for Othello, it's 0.6. So they've done like 60% of one orbit. So because it's all 0.6, they've all gone the same proportion of their orbit, which means they're all going to be lined up, which means like the answer is B, because they'll have all gone that far around and lined up again. So that's like the mechanics of the question. But yeah, I think the key thing here was like reading the question carefully initially and figuring out what to do. I mean, at least when I was going through this question now, like I wasted a lot of time finding the lowest common multiple and stuff, because that's what I assumed the question would be. But the key insight is just that they have to be in line with each other rather than like necessarily going around like 1 time, 2 times and so forth.
Yeah, I'll just show it on the iPad. So Romeo is just going round to that point. It doesn't do any more than that.
Right.
Hamlet is going to go all the way around and get back to that point. And then Othello is going to do 3 loops and then get back to that point. But they'll all, it's a mess now, but they'll all still be there at a certain point in time because they've all done that much of an orbit.
Right, exactly. So hopefully that was helpful. If anyone's got any questions about that one, like just interrupt me now. All right, cool. Should we move on to question 49? I like you get like a preview of the correct answer before we answer each question. Would anyone like to talk us through question 49? Or I'll just pick someone, which feels kind of mean.
Okay, so I would first of all look at the 12-meter cubic van, and we can see that for the 4-hour van hire, that has 40 miles included, and the initial cost would be 47. So it would be, okay, so for the 12-hour van hire, there's 120 miles included. Wait, sorry, I'm just running through it. So I think it would be cheaper to hire the van for the whole day, when the extra mileage accounts for the difference of the price between the vans. The difference in the price being £16. And if we divide this by 30p, that gives us 53.3 extra miles.
Wait, why divide by 0.3?
By 0.3?
Yes, or yeah, why dividing? It's not like a leading question.
Because I would divide it by, because if we divide this by 30p, sorry, that gives us the 53.3 extra miles. So I would divide it between the price.
Oh yeah, sure. Sorry, yeah, gotcha.
So
Sorry,
that would give me answer. And
so what did we say that was? 50
3.3.
Yeah. So that's the number of miles, just so I get my head around it. That's the number of miles that you could drive with £16 if you took the car, if you took the 12-hour van, 12-meter cubed van for 4 hours. Okay. Is that right? Okay, cool.
So we would add the 40 miles to that 53, which would give us 93 miles of driving, meaning that the minimum would be those 93 miles. Therefore, the answer would be E, which is 94 miles.
Right, yeah, exactly. That was a really good explanation. I think that's nicer than my way of doing it. So did anyone not follow? If you didn't understand it, then just like ask now. Okay, yeah, cool. I think that was a really nice way of solving it. I guess one thing to add here is that, like, especially because this is a question towards the end of the paper, like sometimes the maths, like the division and multiplication, gets kind of awkward and like there's decimal points and stuff involved. And the thing to take away, I think, is that you don't have to be like completely accurate with your maths. You just need to be accurate enough that you can like distinguish between the options. So like here, DNA, like it's 92 or 94, right? So we don't really care like exactly how many miles is if it's like 93 and a bit. We just need to know enough to distinguish between the two options. So for some of the stuff, like some of the maths is kind of awkward, and it's faster just to kind of get like a close enough estimate that you can distinguish from the options. But I really like that way of solving it. That was really nice. And I think it's probably the best way of doing it.
Oh, I can try.
Go for it.
So I kind of drew it out like into a 3D form. So like I like made the net into a cube, if that makes sense. And then just like circled the corners that had two diagonal faces.
Wait, you actually sketched out the like three-dimensional waves?
I did two different methods. I thought like the first like each face, like the endpoint faces on the other side. So like it's kind of hard to explain. But like I would meet up, and then basically I was like second guessing that that was the correct method. So yeah.
Sorry, my internet's cutting out a little bit, so please.
Yeah, mine too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can definitely draw the cube out if that's sort of the best way for you to visualize it. The way I sort of approached this was I looked at it and thought, okay, so it's a cube. There are 8 corners. There are 4 corners that we can see already in the middle. And you can see there are 2 corners there where, and then there are 2 corners where 2 lines meet already. And we can see that those other 2 are not going to be ones that meet, so we can discard those 2. And then because all 4 of the cubes coming off that have diagonals going in the same direction, one diagonal is going to end up at each of the 4 corners on the top, if that makes sense. If you're viewing this middle one as the bottom and you fold it up, there are going to be 4 corners on the top, and at each corner there's going to be one diagonal from the side. And then because there's one diagonal across the top, you know that 2 corners are going to be connected, and it doesn't particularly matter which 2, because you can see that there are 4 in total, and it doesn't particularly matter if you can work out exactly which ones they are. But that's, yeah, it kind of depends on how you see it, I think, because if you don't spot a way to do it, the quickest way to do it can just be to sketch it out and to visualize it on paper, because otherwise you can sort of get stuck trying to work out how it's all going to fold up, etc., in your head.
Yeah, the 8 corners is a good start. I think I basically did what Milo did, but I sort of just did a little bit of a sketch. Maybe that's what Tina did. You start with what you can see. So you can see the 2 corners here. And then I kind of just approached the other corners one at a time. So I thought about like, for example, you start with this folding into this, right? And if you fold it up, there's nothing here that meets anything here. Does that make sense? So if you bring the net up like this, there's nothing that meets there, right? And then I look over here, and there's nothing that meets over here, right? So if you bring those 2 faces of the net up, there's nothing that meets. The same thing here, right? If you bring it up, there's nothing that meets. But then when you look at the top, when you fold the top over, you fold it up once and then up one more time to go over. This line here is going to be here, right? So it's going to intersect twice more with the diagonal lines on the top. And if that wasn't intuitive, then you can think about it. You can think if this corner ends up over here, then it's going to touch if it's going to end up there on the top, then it's going to touch this corner when it's folded up. And then this corner is going to be here, and that's going to touch this corner here when that net is folded up. Is anyone still like super baffled by this? And again, you take the scratch paper, you cut it out, and this is one way to do it if you really are like struggling to understand this one. Was someone saying earlier that they had a question about this one?
No, it's just this question I actually didn't get right. Like I didn't understand it at all.
Oh.
But when you were talking about the other side on the so when you fold up the cube that is, well, the side of the cube that's on the far right, I don't quite get how that aligns with the other side of the cube.
You might, yeah, if you could sketch it, that might help.
Oh, okay. Let me just do a 3D sketch.
It's just
then.
a quick sketch.
Yeah. Okay. So if this was here, right? This is this here, okay? Right? It's here on the net, because the rest of the net is let me think about this. If you fold, so think about it, right? The rest of the net is here, okay? We're just talking about this piece here. If you fold this piece up and over, right? If you fold it up and over to the top, then it makes whatever is on that face, the line on that face must surely rotate all the way up.
It flips over.
It flips, right? And then the line would face this way instead, because it's connected to this segment here, right? So that segment folds up, and then so okay, the first step of folding for this would be folding to this face, right? And then it would look like that. And then if you were to fold it one more time, that line would go all the way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
And then yeah, okay, maybe Tina's way is the best way to do this then, just to straight up sketch it. I mean, basically you're thinking, okay, if this is, okay, assume this is already folded on top, right? It's like this. Then which 4 faces does it touch? Well, it would touch this face, this face, this face, and this face, right? Because it doesn't touch the bottom face. The bottom face is below it. So it has to touch the 4 around it, because now it's on top. You folded it onto the top. So the 4 that would touch it look like, let me think, one looks like this. This one looks like this. The one on the other face looks like that. Let me think. Oh, no, hold on. This one looks like, oh my God. No, I was right there. Okay, and then, Milo, I'm doing something wrong. Come on.
I think it's, I would start a new sketch if I were you.
Okay.
Do people still?
Yeah.
Is there anyone who's still not sure?
It's okay if you're not sure. Just say it. We're happy.
Yeah, just say, because we can do a sketch, definitely.
We're happy to sketch it. I'm happy to sketch it. Okay,
Yeah,
we'll do it. We'll do it. It's fine. Hold on. Let me.
If you just do a cube, sort of a 3D cube, and then add in the diagonals, I think it's probably the easiest.
Should I draw a tetrahedron next? Okay. Let's see. We'll give ourselves a little bit more space here. Okay. So cube, here we go. Oh yeah, that's very rectangular. Okay, but let's think about what line is on the bottom. So we'll put the lines in. Okay, so we'll put this line in like this. Okay, so you guys get the orientation of the cube, right? I've rotated the cube a little bit. The next thing you want to do, so that's the bottom face. That's the bottom. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna put it as a dotted line so you understand that's the bottom line. Okay, then you want to look at, let's look at this face here, right? This face, this face is this face here, right? So if you were to fold that up, then that face looks like, that line is like that, right? There's no intersection with the bottom face. And you can visually see that there's no intersection with the bottom face, right? Okay, now let's do this one. This one, remember, there is an intersection with the bottom face. So you know that the line has to start at the intersection point and go diagonally across. So that face looks like this, right? That's this one here. And then you have this one here, which doesn't intersect. So you know it has to go like, you know, it goes like this, right? And then you have this one, which does intersect from one corner. So it goes like, oops, let me put it as a dotted line. Okay. And then don't forget the top, right? The top, like we said, if you fold it over once and then twice, the orientation of the line will be like this on the top, right? So on the top, the line will look like this. And using this, you can see the intersection points. You can see one intersection here, right? That's the intersection of the dotted lines. So that's right here. You can see an intersection here, which is this intersection here. And then on the top, you can see two more intersections. You can see the intersection here and an intersection here. And what that represents is this, after it being folded onto the top, meeting this, which was folded onto the top. And you can see the intersection of this corner with this corner here, once it folded to the top. Okay.
Does that make more sense now?
Yeah, it did. Thank you.
Okay. Again, like paper, cut, and just, you know, that's another way to do it.
Shall we move on to 31 now?
Yes, please. Okay, thank you. We just do 31. Oh no, we didn't. Okay.
There we go.
Okay.
Does anyone want to give this a go? Sarah, do you want to give it a go?
This is all
Yeah.
girls.
I'm just trying to remember how I did this, but I did get the right answer. I think. Okay, yeah. So when it says at the bottom, typical values per 100 grams, I then compared the sugars from that to where it said the table where it's like each oat cake provides, which is 0.3.
Yep.
So I knew that there were 12 oat cakes in 100 grams. And then
What?
Just check your maths there.
oh wait, no.
Milo, are you hearing that buzzing noise, or is that just me?
Yeah, I am. I'm not sure what
whatever.
it is.
This is going to be a shitty recording. All right.
Oh, is it 8?
Yep.
So, yeah, sorry. 8 in 100 grams. So then in a packet with 300 grams, there would be 24.
Yep, exactly. And you can use any of the sort of 5 things in the table. So you could have done the same thing with energy or fat or whatever, but sugars is probably the easiest calculation to do. It's just dividing one by the other and then remembering to times by 3. Energy's
at the top because they want to confuse you. They want to make you do long division. And I got to say, the first time I attempted this, I tried to do the energy one. You can do it for any of them.
Yep. Did anyone struggle with that one? Or does everyone sort of get what we did there?
Yes.
Gonna take that as a get what we did. I think the next one's 37. There we go. Patricia? Do you want to give this a go?
Did you call me? I'm having connection issues, so I don't really know if you said my name. Did you say Patricia?
Yeah.
Oh,
If you
I'm sorry. So basically what I did is I thought it was kind of more or less like a ratio question. So I more or less rounded each of them up and then divided by a number which was kind of similar. So I rounded all of them up, and then the ratio which was smaller was like 12-1 or something like that was Scotland. And it was like for quite a difference between the others. So I just chose D, Scotland.
That's the right answer. And did you do all 8 regions?
I looked at them and more or less saw which of them were like too far. But yeah, I basically did all of them, I think, except for the ones which seemed like 18-1 or something.
So
Like
just a little tip here is there are 8 regions, which means there are 8 calculations you could do, but they've only given you 5 possible answers. So actually, you only need to do those 5 calculations, so you can get rid of 3 others, which just helps speed things up a bit. But yeah, otherwise that's just what you have to do. You've got to round to something that you can divide relatively easily and work out a ratio, and then work out the lowest. But as you say, Scotland was the lowest by a bit of a way.
Can you talk to us just briefly about the rounding? Like, that's a really good way of solving it, because instead of doing specific long division, can you talk to us about that a little bit?
Yeah. So for example, let's take Scotland as an example. So 893 divided by 59 is horrible, and obviously you don't want to be cracking out the long division during the TSA, because for 5 different sums that will take forever. So for Scotland, I rounded up to 900 because while it's slightly closer to 890, 900 is a much nicer number to divide by, or to divide. And then 59 obviously can be rounded up to 60, which is a very nice number to divide by. And then 900 divided by 60 is suddenly a lot more manageable a calculation, because it's just 90 divided by 6, which is 15.
Oh shit, sorry. Yeah. Okay.
So, and so, for example, looking at the one just above, Wales, that's one that you can go to 525, and suddenly that's a really nice, easy calculation.
Yeah. 1600 by.
That was one of the nastier ones. But
90. Yeah.
Yep.
That's like.
In the end, I actually went from top to bottom, from bottom to top, because I saw that those looked, the ones at the bottom looked lower. So once I'd done that, by the time I got to 1,600 divided by 90, even if it was divided by 100, which would make it lower, it would still be 16, which would still be higher than Scotland. So I was able to get around doing that. But that's one where you might have to sort of just do the long division. But
yeah. And if you get to like the 2 lowest answers, you can also, like, if you have extra time, you can double check your work by by actually doing the long division. Okay, next one.
I don't have the next one because it was 42, which we've done already.
Oh, okay, so 44.
Yeah, which I think you were doing.
Oh, this is me. Okay. Let me call on somebody. Can you call on someone for me, because I still can't see the names for some reason. This Zoom is not working great today.
Susie.
Susie, please. Thank you.
honestly have no idea with this question. Unless I got it right, I didn't know.
What did you choose?
I honestly I was running out of time, so I just picked
Okay.
C. I didn't even try and narrow it down. I just thought
Okay.
I'm not very good at spatial awareness questions, so I just thought I'll just guess and move on to the other questions.
Not a bad strategy, because questions are worth the same, and skipping questions you're not good at. You don't want to sacrifice 3 questions to solve this one question and get it wrong, right?
To be fair, looking at this, I would skip this. It's miserable.
Sorry?
This is a miserable question.
Oh, slightly, but this is not as, again, like we said, we were actually about to skip this question, but the reason why we're reviewing it is because we can't guarantee that they're going to skip it again this year, right? We can't guarantee that they're going to skip spatial reasoning, and we hate for you guys not to be prepared for it. This is sort of just visualization, because you don't have time to, fold 5 nets using origami in your scratch paper, right? Like, you're going to run out of time, and the proctors are going to be upset. You have to just think about where the folds are and visualize which faces are represented by each fold. So if you look at A, for example, you see that this face here is obviously the bottom, right? That's, if you look at the cube comme ça, that's obviously the bottom here. You have the L's, right, which is pretty obvious. That's here and here, okay. And then you have the back part. The back part is this face here, right? That's the back of the cube here, right? So what are we missing? We're missing 1, 2, 3, 4 surfaces here. So you're missing these 4 surfaces. And here we go. Let me go back to the net. So if you look at the net, wherever it's a dotted line, that's where you fold. So if you, let me think, this side would be the left side, and this side would be the right side of the net. Does that make sense? So if you're folding this face from the bottom, let me think. If you're folding it up onto the top, this will fold over and be on top of this area here. So that's this face here. And then this would fold, if this face was on top, then the face attached to it would have to fold downwards and forwards, right? Forwards is this way. So that would be this face here, right? And then over here, you can see, let me see, this face folds to the front. So this would fold this way, right? Because the fold is front to back, front to back. And that would fold sort of right to left clockwise into itself. So this face is this one here. And then if you try to fold this again, if this is already on the front, and then you fold this again, it's going to end up on the left face, right? So if you took that, and then you had this extra thing to fold, and then you folded it onto itself, it would end up here, onto this face. So I think A is the wrong answer. I mean, it's the one that cannot be folded into the L-shaped box. Please tell me A is the answer. I hope it is.
It is the answer.
Okay, yeah. So that one was a lucky break, because it just happened to be the first one we tried. Sometimes you look at the nets and it is intuitive. It comes as intuitive, right? You look at it and you're just like, oh, like this clearly cannot be used to fold the nets. but this is one of those things where it's a bonus question, right? Like you've already settled that you're going to not get a perfect score. You're going to get 49 out of 50, but then you have a little bit of extra time. You can do this, right? Otherwise, please do not attempt this. This is one of those things where you either know it or you don't. Okay. All right. Let's do 49. 14. Yeah. Let's see, 49. Okay, interesting. Time zone questions. Okay. Oops. So who hasn't done the question yet? Let's call on somebody, please.
I think everyone has now. Oh,
Who's that
Zara,
in the purple
in fact,
shirt?
I'm not sure. Sorry, I missed that.
Who's that in the purple shirt, I said, or the blue shirt?
Patricia, who
Oh, Patricia.
answered one a couple ago. I'm not sure Zara's answered one yet.
Zara,
I might be wrong.
Zara answered one of the problem solving earlier. So, I mean, the critical thinking. So.
Oh, right, okay. I think everyone's answered one then. I think it's whoever.
Okay, Patricia, again, can you do this one, please?
I didn't do it on the actual question because I didn't have time. I got to the last question.
Right.
Do you want to give it a go anyway?
Yeah, please. Can you hear me?
I think the internet connection might have gone.
Okay, Zara, can you do this one, please?
Okay, so with this question, I really struggled with. Again, I'm not the best at problem solving. So what I first did was, like, if Nathan lives in London, I took that as a reference point. And it like X, right? And then San Diego, if it's 8 hours behind, I wrote 8 minus X. And if Barcelona is 1 hour ahead, I put 1 plus X. And if Nairobi was 2 hours ahead, I put 2 plus X. And I put the 8 and then the 8 p.m. local time. I mean, I kind of tried to understand the question by setting it up in that way, but I didn't know where to go from there. And that's where I got it wrong. Because I kind of just fudged my way through it. But yeah.
So what is the question? What is the question asking you? What's the theme of the question?
I believe it's asking you when they're going to be online. So
Okay.
at what time they're going to be online at the same time.
Okay, so basically they're going to be online 8 to 8 wherever they are in the world. But if I'm online 8 o'clock to 8 o'clock in London, then, and you're in Barcelona, let's say you're in Barcelona 1 hour ahead, then my 8 o'clock is actually your 9 o'clock. So you've already been online for an hour, right? And then when it's 8 p.m. for me, it's 9 p.m. for you. You've already been offline for an hour. So you and I don't have that 1 hour of time to be online together, right? And that's a conflicting time. So can we just write down what time everybody is available relative to the reference? You said the reference, right? The reference, Nathan is available 0800 to 2000 London time, right? So what time is Mark available in San Diego, London time? If it's 8, so what? Okay, if Mark is looking at his clock in San Diego, what time is he going to be available?
If Mark is looking at, sorry, so
what time in San Diego time is Mark going to be available?
At 12. I mean midnight.
No, he's going to be available 8 to 8. Everybody's going to be available 8 to 8, wherever they are. Right? So then it doesn't matter where in the world you are, you're going to be available 8 to 8. We just have to convert it to London time.
Did you mean midnight London time?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was because Mark's
Oh,
available.
I see what you mean. Okay. This is one of those things that kind of sucks, because if you don't have familiarity with time zones, it might be a little bit confusing. If I'm, let's see. Zara, if I say I'm an hour behind you, and it's midnight for me, what time is it for you?
It's wait, it's 1 in the morning.
It's 1, right? So what did you do? You added an hour from my time to get to your time, because I'm behind you. I haven't caught up to you, so I need to add more time to catch up with you, right? So if it's 8 a.m., if it's 8 in the morning for Mark, and he's 8 hours behind London time, what time is it in London at 8 a.m. in San Diego?
4.
For what?
Wait.
4 p.m. Right?
Yeah. I'm confused. I think she's right in terms of, in comparison to when Nathan is around from 8 to 8, it's midnight to
Oh, is that the way you're approaching it? I mean, there's 2 ways to approach it. You can find everyone's time relative to London, or you can find Mark's time. Let me think about this. So, I mean, what I would do here is, like Zara just said, you'd find like 1600 to 0400, right? This is the time at which Mark is available London time, right?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
that's a good way to do it.
Yeah. And then anyways, so Ben is available what time, Zara?
Ben is available at 9 his time.
He's available at 8 his time. What time in London would that be if he's available at 8 o'clock?
7.
7, perfect, good. Because they're ahead, right? And until what time?
Until 7 p.m.
Which is in 24-hour time.
Our time would be 8. I mean,
it's like 7 p.m. written in 24-hour time is
19.
Good. Okay, 1900. Okay, and the last person is Isabel, right, in Nairobi. So what time is she available if she's 2 hours ahead?
She would be available at 10.
So she's 2 hours ahead, right? If
Yeah.
Ben, so for Ben, you took away an hour because he was an hour ahead. So if Nairobi is 2 hours ahead, then what would you do?
Oh, she would be I would subtract 2 hours from Nairobi's time, so she would be available at 6.
She's 2 hours from London time, right? She's in Nairobi.
Yeah.
So 6 is 6, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you can kind of, I mean, there's multiple ways to do this. I think one of the ways is just to draw it out visually. That's how I did it. If you have sort of the whole day here, this is 12, 0, and 24. Okay, if Nathan is available sort of from here to here, right, 8 to 20 o'clock. Mark is available from 16, which is sort of here, into 4 a.m. Are you following me, Zara?
Yeah.
Okay, and then Ben is from 7 o'clock to 1900. 7 o'clock to 1900, and then Isabel from 6 o'clock to 1800. Okay, and it's asking you for how many hours are all three siblings available. How many does that, no, for how many hours are at least 3 of the siblings available? It doesn't have to be the same 3 siblings, right? It could be any of the 3 siblings available.
So Nathan, Ben, and Isabel,
Mhm.
they have this time within the 8 to 12 gap where
Good.
they're all available.
Good. Okay. So we start with these 4 hours here, right? 4 hours. 4 hours. Okay.
And then there's this also there's this gap within the 16 hours where Mark, Ben, and Isabel, they have like time where they could be available.
Only Mark and Isabel?
No, and Ben, sorry.
Mark, Isabel, and Ben, so M, I, and B, they're available at what time?
The thing is that it's not exact, but like you can see from 16 hours to 18 hours that there's like time that they share.
Yeah, okay. So that's 2 hours. Okay.
And there's also the time between 12 to 16 hours between
Okay.
Nathan, Mark, Ben, and Isabel.
Nathan.
Oh,
All
sorry,
4.
Nathan, Ben, and
Okay.
Isabel.
Nathan, Ben, and Isabel are here, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's 4 hours, right? So you have 4, 4, 2. So is there any other time at which everybody is available? I mean, three, at least 3 people are available.
So from the 19 from Ben, so 19 hours from Ben, and then Mark and then Nathan, they're all available for that 1 hour.
The 1 hour from when to when?
From 18 to 19.
Good. Okay, right. That's good. So we're here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so that's 1 hour. Okay, and then all you have to do is just add, right? 4, 4, 2, 1 is 11. And the answer is D. Okay?
Yeah.
So I think the best way to do this is to graphically do it, because if you try to solve this in your head, it's not going to really work out great. And I know time zones are a little bit confusing, but they do come up a lot on the TSA. They like to talk about them. You just have to, if it gets really confusing, you can even look at, like, again, draw like a map for yourself, right? And write a sample time. Like for Nathan, if it's 00 and Barcelona, it's an hour ahead, you can write 100. And that's how you know that you need to subtract to get back to London time, right? This is given for me because I live in the San Diego time zone. So for me, I know you add 8 hours, but for people who, you know, are in London time, this may be slightly confusing. Anyways, okay, let's do the last question, and good work. This will take like 30 seconds. Can somebody explain this, Susie?
I also got this one wrong, but I think like
Really?
when I went back over it,
Mhm.
is it because you can't flip the shapes over?
Well, she bought some tables. Do you flip tables in your house?
Yeah, okay, that's, yeah, I abstracted it too much, that's fine.
Yeah.
So, because you can't flip tables over, you just have to see the ways the shapes fit together. So, shape A, you can kind of slot them in together, so that works without flipping any tables over.
Okay.
Shape B, Does it not work? No, wait, it does work.
It does?
You can, so the first table, just kind of turn it up,
Yes,
and
it
the
does,
other
right?
one, flip it down.
Like this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Shape C, you can flip the first table.
180, right?
Yeah. D doesn't work because,
You can't flip the table, right?
yeah.
Okay.
And then E works by stacking the short end of one table on top of the long end of the other.
Yeah. This doesn't make sense to everybody, because I gotta be honest, this is one of the easier questions. Yes, you do have to, I mean, I think before you flipped the table, surely you got a feeling in your heart that that was not correct, that you should not be flipping the conference tables, right?
I honestly just was kind of, I read the question and know it was a table, but like I was just looking at the shapes and like you can flip shapes over, so it was just
well, it's good that you're thinking like that, because some of the questions are asking for you to flip. There are questions that do ask you to flip and assemble. So they say like, oh, we're putting pieces of paper together. But then there are other questions where, like, for example, on the other paper, there was the tile question, which you guys will work on in the other group, right? You can't flip tiles if there's a design on the front. The back of the tile would not have that. And sometimes maybe you didn't know that tiles couldn't do that, but generally speaking, it should be intuitive on what you can and can't do. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Good work, everybody. Let's
Are we ready to switch? Because I'll let Theo know.
We're ready to switch. Thank you. And remind Theo to, well, he should know to record. Milo, for this next session, can you also screen record, just in case it's my connection that's...
It didn't let me. Oh, now it is.
Okay, great.
It didn't let me till you were in for some reason. Yeah, yeah.
Did you tell Milo to... Oh, wait, you and I switch, right?
Oh, do we switch?
Yeah, because how do we do this? Breakout rooms.
Theo, just on the last question, so just wait a sec. If any of you have any questions about anything, now's a good time to ask.
I'm still a bit confused about the, sorry, did someone put their hand up?
Which one? For which one? Tell me.
The time zone. Honestly, it sounds like I still don't get why when you go an hour, I think it still works out if you do it the other way and you just did it backwards. But I didn't get the, like, you're an hour forward, so you're actually an hour behind.
Oh, I see. Well,
yeah. Could I?
Please. Yeah.
Because I did it slightly when I saw this. I did it a slightly different way too, which is I think the way that makes it easier if you're thinking of it as in terms of behind. So rather than sort of adding on to work out what time 8 to 8 is in terms of London time, what I did is worked out, because it's 8 to 8 everywhere, I worked out what time 8 to 8 was in all of these other times. So London time was in all of these other times. So for Mark, when it's 8 o'clock for Nathan, that means it's midnight for Mark. So midnight to 12 is his sort of section, and then for Ben, he's 1 hour ahead, so that's 9 to. What is it?
I see what you mean. Yeah.
9 to 9, in fact, 21, and then 10 to 22, and then I think that maybe if you're thinking of it in terms of going back and forward, that might make it a bit easier, because I think you still get the same solution.
Look, both ways work, as long as you use the same, like, as long as ahead always means minus or ahead always means plus, right? Like it just think about, you're in London, right? You're in the UK. Okay, you're in the UK. So I'm in the Pacific time zone. I'm in California. No, I'm actually not in California right now. If If I'm behind you, then for me to get your time, I have to add. So that's what Milo did, right? Milo just, did you do that? No.
I just minused.
Milo subtracted because
Yeah.
I'm behind you. So right now for me, it's 8:26 in the morning. For you, it's 16:26, right? It's 4:26 in the afternoon. So you see what I mean? It's either way. Like you could take London time and you could minus the time difference because I'm behind you, or because I'm behind, I can add time to catch up with you. Right? So just don't overthink it. Just you can do it either way. You can think about time relative to the question time zone, or you can figure out what time the central time zone is for everybody individually in their individual time zones.
Okay. Shall we swap then?
Yeah. Do you want me to move you, or you got the screen?
I can move, I think.
Perfect. Okay.
So go.
See you guys later in the central room. Okay. Let's switch.
Okay, perfect. Does anyone want to give this a stab? Or we can just call on somebody at random.
Good.
The
guy with the headphones. I've seen him before.
Is it Gian?
Yeah, I got this one wrong. I think I did 4, but probably, sorry, I did it 3, but the answer is probably 4.
Do you want to give it a go? Just to run through your thought process.
Yeah, just a second. I think I probably will skip this one. Yeah.
Is there Diana? Do you want to give it a go?
Sure. I don't know how conventional this is, but I do this one. So I well, I'm not sure how to explain this, but I'll try. So this one here is obviously going to stay on top. So the one in the middle.
Which one in the middle? Is it? Are you talking about this one or?
No, the one to the left.
Okay, right. So this one here.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, so that one, I said that would stay on top, and then the other one would be folded below it, and then those on the sides would be the actual sides, and then that would come in the back, and then that would come on the bottom. And if you do that, well, we're obviously going to have that one intersection where the one in the middle and the one that's going to come below it meet. I don't know if you get exactly what I mean, but
I think I do, yeah.
Yeah. I think what you said was that this square is the top.
Yep.
Okay, that's interesting.
Okay, and then so we have two intersections for now that we can see very clearly, and then that one on the bottom is sort of going to be changing directions, if you know what I mean, because it's going to be in a different perspective. So that's going to provide us with two other little intersections, and yeah, that's how I solve that problem.
It might help if you draw a sketch, just so that I'll volunteer you to draw a sketch for us.
Thank you very much.
So that everyone else.
I'm sorry, I probably didn't do a very good job explaining this.
It makes sense, but it's probably.
No. That explanation was really good, actually.
Yeah, it definitely makes sense. It will just help people visualize if we draw a sketch. So, what did you get as your answer then?
I said 4, I think.
Yep. Perfect. Actually, it's interesting that you went to that middle one being on the top, because me and Yo-Yo and everyone in the other group had that one on the bottom and then folding up. So I guess it's just a how you see it kind of thing. But
Sort of a cube face up type of person rather than a...
Yeah, we used to make little cubes in maths in 5th grade. So that's how I'd always do them.
fair enough.
Interesting. Okay. So you're saying this line here is this one, right? And then this one here gets folded downwards, right?
That's right.
Okay, right. So it's going to look something like, yeah. Hold on.
Ooh.
1 second. I gotta do it like this, like that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and then this one here, folded downwards onto this side, would look like this, right?
Mhm.
Actually, let me dot that because technically it's in the invisible part, right? Okay, and then what's on the bottom? The bottom is this one here.
Yep.
But I shouldn't draw it like this because I've flipped it to the bottom,
Exactly.
right? So it becomes like this.
Yeah.
So it's going to look comme ça. Okay. Right?
Yeah, and that's another intersection.
And that's what?
Another intersection.
Oh yeah. Here, let me
if you draw the other two,
I'll draw the other
diagonals in, and then
so this face here gets folded downwards. So it looks like this, right?
Yeah.
And then the final face is that back one there. Let's use orange. Okay. So that back face gets folded downwards and it doesn't intersect with the blue line. So it must start from the opposite corner then, right? And oops, yeah. That's gonna look like that, right? And then using that, we can sort of look at our intersection points. One here, one here, one here, and one here.
perfect.
Good.
Does
And
anyone?
Milo, I was about to add, this could have easily ended up being a trick question. I know that sounds like like how can this be any worse? It does say exactly 2.
Yeah.
And I was really careful about that because there is a possibility where, let's say 3 of the lines met. Let's say this green line on the front was like this, and then 3 lines intersected here. That would not be one of the right answers. That would not fall under the criteria, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Okay, so you guys got to be careful about that.
Does anyone not understand how we got to that answer there?
Bless you.
Gian, do you sort of see what we did there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect. Shall we?
Sorry, I do understand the question, but the way I always work out these questions is, I think it's quicker and easier to just kind of like rip the net of the cube and make it. So like just like that. But are you actually allowed to do that in the exam? Because I'm thinking like example, I don't know, maybe 50 students from my school are applying to Oxford. So if there's an example with 60 students in it.
I'm sorry, which school are you at?
I go to John Dean's College in Northwich.
Oh, okay. I thought you were like Westminster or something. I was like, holy moly.
Oh no. It's just a state school. But is it okay for me to like be sat ripping paper in an example? Because obviously it's quite loud.
So I don't think technically there's anything stopping you anywhere on any of the rubrics. So I think go for it. But you should probably expect somebody to come up to you and say, what on earth are you doing? At which point you can say, there's nothing stopping me do this, and it's helpful for a certain question. But also, I'm not sure whether spatial reasoning questions are going to come up this year. So you might not even have that problem. But yes, in general, yes, just expect funny looks.
You can practice ripping paper quietly, right? And you can do it.
Am I allowed to like take in a pair of scissors, or is that not allowed?
That is a stretch. And I don't
Okay.
think you can.
I'm not sure there's anything, again, I'm not sure there's anything saying you can't. I think at that point, you probably want to talk to somebody beforehand
Okay.
and
Yeah.
ask somebody who is
Not-
administering the exam.
Not a bad idea, actually. If you wanted, you can even ask them, "Can I bring in die-shaped scratch paper in the shape of a clock?"
That's a really good idea, actually. I'll definitely ask the college that before then.
It's not-
I don't know if this applies to anyone else. I just go to like a really, really big school. So
The final authority rests with Cambridge Assessment. So honestly, you can even email Cambridge Assessment through the online contact and ask them, "Can I bring in cross-shaped paper, so that I can fold these die easier?" Yeah. Look, honestly, if it gets you two extra points, worth it. Okay, let's move on. So
31.
Yeah, 31. Here we go. Okay. Let's
who wants to give this a go? Nihir? Do you want to give this a go?
Yeah, right. I'll try. Okay. So we have the data for the amount each oatcake provides.
Yep.
In this case, we have to find the number of oatcakes in a packet. It tells us that there are 300 grams. There's a 300-gram packet of oatcakes. Yes. So in each packet is 300 grams. In this case, the ingredients, I reckon they would be irrelevant, so we don't even have to really look at that.
Yep.
So we have 300 grams. We have the actual values for 100 grams. So if we just multiply, I'll take a value that's common, or a metric that's common between both. Let's take energy, 430 kilocalories. If you multiply, it's 427, but I mean, I'm not going to multiply 27 by 3. It's much easier to multiply 30 times 3. So 430 times 3 is what? It's 1,200 plus 90. So 1,290. Okay, so here I just thought about dividing by 53, because that would give you the number of oatcakes in a packet. So again, I don't need to take 3. I don't need to incorporate the 3 in this. I can just take 50. So that will come out to be what?
It won't divide neatly. Just a slightly easier way. You've got exactly the right idea. You need to work out how much is in a set quantity, and then divide that, like a set weight, and then divide that set weight by the amount in each oatcake. But a much easier way to do that would be, rather than timesing up and then dividing, would be to divide the 100 grams first and work out how many oatcakes are in 100 grams.
And multiply that into 3.
And multiply that by 3, because that's suddenly a much more sort of manageable number to work with. So you could do 427 divided by 53 and then times up by 3.
And here, can you maybe just do exactly what you just did, but try using fats, saturated fat, salt, or sugars?
Sure. Okay. We'll use sugar. That's fairly small, I guess. So I'll try Milo's approach actually with this. So 2.4 divided by 0.3 would be, so 8 essentially.
Yep.
8 and times 3, that's 24.
Exactly.
Was that a little bit easier than the?
Much easier actually. Yeah.
Okay. Good.
So yeah, you can use any of those 5 sort of metrics that it provides for each oatcake. You can compare any of them to the typical values per 100 grams and divide. I mean, the 427, actually, it's not too complicated, because you can do the 400 divided by 50 and then 27 divided by 3. Sort of, it doesn't quite work out as neatly, but yeah.
Milo, wouldn't you agree that that energy is listed first deliberately? They want.
Oh yeah, no, I'm sure.
I'm sure
it's a much bigger number.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely confusing. But you can use any of the other ones is the key thing to sort of note. Don't just automatically go for that first one. Yeah. But does anyone not get what we did there?
Yeah, I understand, but there was one choice which was salt, and I divided it and you get 7.
But yeah, I had
so
exactly the same thing, and I was really confused about that. And
Yeah.
I tried one of the others, so I don't know what was going on there, because if you did that first, you might presume that it was 7 and then go with that. So I really don't know what that was about.
Oh, that is not cool.
But I think
Oh
maybe
man, I think in that case you'd have to double check your work, because that comes down to rounding, doesn't it?
well, not really. 1.4 divided by 0.2 is definitely 7.
Yes.
And
But I'm saying that the not 0.2 could have been 0.24.
Right, yeah.
When you're one,
Yeah, that's
that,
what, yeah.
yeah, it says on the top.
Yeah.
Oh, that's super sketchy, actually.
That makes it a lot more difficult, actually.
I didn't even catch that, actually.
Yeah, that's interesting, because that makes it very tough.
I don't know what to tell you, honestly. Sorry, that's thanks for catching that. Maybe that's a reminder to just double check your work and just put through another quick thing, like let's say fact, right? You can see 2 times 8 is 16 plus decimal 8 is another 1.6, 17.6, right? That's this one. 8 times 3 is 24 again. Maybe check your work like that. But yeah, that's a good reminder to just check your work. I don't know what else to say to you.
Yeah. Should we go to 37?
Please, yeah. And thanks for catching that. That's really shady. That's
Yeah, that's why I got the question wrong.
Bad luck.
Michelle, do you want to give this one a go?
I didn't get this one right, and I was sort of confused by it, but what I tried to do was just like simplify down, but the numbers were quite big, so I sort of just ended up guessing, so I didn't really get it right.
Okay, so you're kind of right in that you need to sort of make the numbers are very large and complex, so you need to simplify the divisions, because you can't do 132 divided by 2,418 and then do 7 more of those in the exam. But you don't want to sort of make it too simple. And the other thing to note, this is the key thing here, is there are 8 different, or is it 8? Yes, 8 different regions shown here, but there are only 5 different answers. So there is no point going through the 3 that aren't listed, because trying to divide 2,418 by 132, whatever you round it to, it's still quite nasty, really. So saving yourself those calculations makes it a lot easier. And then the key thing to do is to round numbers to make the division much simpler. So if we go to Scotland as the first example, 893 is very close to 900. So if you round it up to 900 and then round 59 up to 60, suddenly 900 divided by 60 is a much more manageable calculation, where it's 90 divided by 6 and it's 15. Same thing with Wales, which is just above it. 497 goes to 500, 26 goes down to 25, and suddenly you've got a much better calculation. And so you can use sort of little rounding tricks like that. Obviously, especially the Midlands one is quite a complicated one, because 1,600 divided by 90 is difficult. But even then, you can go, okay, so it's 160 divided by 9, and then it's suddenly you can see that it becomes a lot easier like that, using sort of little simplification tricks and rounding. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I hadn't thought of that. I sort of started just simplifying down by 2, so it took me a while, and
all right, okay.
It got complicated.
Michelle, did you try all 8 answers? Did you start dividing?
No, I just did like the 5 that were.
Okay, so that's good. That you spotted that bit then, which is good. And then it's just So I guess this is the key thing, is when you see very big numbers that they want you to do stuff with, the best way to do it is to round to something that you can work with and then go from there. That will pretty much always be the quickest and easiest way to do it, because if they're asking you to add two very large numbers, it will just save you a lot of time, especially if they're asking you to divide. You can divide by 2 and sort of go down like that, but that takes forever. So rounding to something neat and then dividing just will save you a lot of time. And
yeah, another thing is, like I mentioned before, you can, if you have extra time, you can, or actually even now, if you've narrowed down 2 choices, let's say you're between 3 choices and you really do have time to do long division, it's better to do long division for 2 of them or 3 of them, your final 2 choices, just to check your work, than to attempt all of them, right? Okay. So
could I make a suggestion for this question?
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
Just quickly. So for England Midlands, actually, you don't really need to divide it by 90. That's quite difficult comparatively. But you can think of it like this. 1,600 divided by 90 is the average of 1,600 divided by 100 and 1,600 divided by 80. 2 much easier calculations. So essentially, it's the average of 16 and 20, which is 18 in this case.
That's a very good way to do it too.
Quick maths. Yeah, that's interesting.
Very
Yeah,
good.
Very interesting. Yeah, good. They're always interested in quicker ways to solve these problems. 16, so the average is approximately 18, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Put that there because otherwise it might not make it to the final video. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Shall we go to 42?
Absolutely. Here we go. 42. We've done 42, right? Yeah.
Oh no, not 42. In fact, yeah. Sorry, we've done 42. So
yeah. Okay, 44. Yeah, Fasai, can you go over this one, please?
Oh, I got this one like wrong because I skipped it and then didn't have enough time to get through it in the end.
Okay. We all understand that it's better to skip a difficult question than to sacrifice 3 other questions solving a difficult one, right? Because all questions are weighted equally. And a big skill of the TSA is being able to question manage. Like if you see, for example, the ratios question, and it sounds like Nahir is really good at ratios, he's going to want to do those, excuse me, he's going to want to do those ones first, right? So that is a strategy. This one you save for last. This one is one of those where like you got an extra 10 minutes, do it. If you don't do it. Yeah, this one, I think my advice is one way to really get good at these questions is to label the directions. This way you're spatially clear, right? Because why do you get questions like this wrong? It's because you become spatially disoriented, right? So the more direction you can add to your work, the better. So for example, this you label as left, right, this is the front, this is the back, right? And then when you're doing the questions, you can label it like front, and then this would be the left, this is the right, this is the back. Same for this one, right, et cetera, et cetera. And then that makes it more clear, because do you guys understand the difference between the cut and the fold? Does that make sense? Does that not make sense for anybody when you cut or fold? Okay, because when you see the dotted line, you fold over the dotted line, right? And the dotted line determines which direction you fold in. So let's say we take one of these pieces, let's say we take this square here, right? Right now it's sitting flat, obviously, it's going to be folded once up and then once over onto here, right? And then this piece becomes the front. So this piece here gets folded. How can you describe it? It folds left to right. So it's going to get folded really onto this face here, right? I think you should think about folding in the sense of directions, right? Like really think about which way the folding is being done. In this example, if this piece here is being folded onto the top, this piece here is folded onto here, right? Then you look at these two pieces. The right L here is sitting upright, that means this gets folded right to left, front to back, right? And then it folds right to left, front to back. It folds from here onto this face here, right? And then but then it has this extra segment here, which is this blue square. The blue square would be attached to it here. And if you think about it, if you fold the red over and you have the blue over here, right, after you've folded it, then where does the blue fold? It folds again onto this face, right? So this can't be correct because it's folding onto the onto this side of the shape. This is not necessarily on the TSA, but this is because this was not on last year's exam because of COVID and because it was on the computer. But the examiners have not removed this from the question guide, which means they're not saying we're not going to necessarily write a question about this. So you still need to know how to do this. Diana?
Were they removed last year from the question guide?
Were they what?
No, to be fair, they weren't removed last year from the question guide.
No,
so
they were
it
not
might
removed.
be
Yeah.
that they haven't updated it, but
So we still have some hope.
yeah, no,
Yes,
there's still
absolutely.
hope. But and the fact that it's on a computer probably plays in your favor, because I think that was probably why they removed them. But still, just it's worth practicing a couple just to be prepared. No, sort of having an idea of what your strategy is for them.
Yeah. And again, these are bonus questions, okay? And you should treat them as such, because if you let a question like this take up 10 minutes, it's silly. You're being silly, okay? Okay, so next question, 49. Okay, this is a fun one. Can, who else is here? Who's this here? Sorry, I can't see names. Whoever just asked on mute, can you do this one? Oh, wait, no, you just did it, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, sir, I forgot your name. Guy at headphones, can you do this one?
Gian, I think.
Gian, please, can you do this one?
Yeah, I actually did this like the answer probably I got is A, that is 8. That is probably because I converted all the time to 1. Suppose it's London. So it's like I converted all of them to London.
You converted
So,
everything to London time.
yeah.
Okay, can you talk
So
me through it so I can write this down for everybody?
So it was like Barcelona is 1 hour ahead of London. So it's like 16 probably.
Barcelona is what time?
I'm sorry, I won't be like able to.
Huh?
Sorry, I won't be able to do this. Yeah.
Why not? Let's do it together. I mean, you can't say that on the test, can you? Yeah, let's just work through this, okay? So tell me what the question is asking first. Explain the question.
So it's like Nathan lives in London, his older brother Mark lives in San Diego. So this ones to be available between 8 and 20 local time. So between the 8 p.m. and then again between the local time. So they are saying San Diego is 8 hours behind London time, Barcelona is 1 hour ahead of London time, and Nairobi is 2 hours ahead of London time. For how many hours during a 24-hour period, at least 3 of the 4 siblings are able to meet online at the same time. So probably during the same time gap, when are they available? And since they are like available during their local time, so probably they'll have to convert it according to just one of the locations.
Okay, so you have the right idea, right? You have to think about everything relative to London time, which is the main location, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you know what? The names are irrelevant, right? So we can do London. So in London, the guy in London is available between 8 o'clock and 20 o'clock London time, right? Because it's local time. So for Barcelona, can you tell me what time, London time, that guy would be available?
Yeah, I mean, it would be, according to him, it would be 9 to 9. I mean, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m.
Okay, for him it'd be 9 a. Okay, all right. So 9 to 9, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And how about Nairobi?
Nairobi, again, it would be like 10 to 10.
Okay, and then San Diego?
San Diego is 8 hours behind. So it is like 20 to 8.
Say that again.
I think Nairobi, since it's 8 hours behind, so probably it is like, oh, no, sorry, 8 hours behind. So it's like, so it's 12. So it's like Nairobi, he'll be available from 12 midnight.
Nairobi or
to
San Diego?
Sorry, San Diego.
San Diego from midnight to what?
Midnight to like, again, 12 in the morning. So 12 noon.
12 noon, right? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So we've expressed, so what we did here was this is all equivalent to 8 o'clock to 20 o'clock London time, right? London time. Because so there's two ways to do this question. Does everybody understand time zones? Because I know that seems kind of obvious, but it may be confusing the words ahead and behind. It really doesn't matter if you mix them up in this particular question, but as long as you keep it consistent, right? Let's say for Nairobi, you decided to subtract instead of add. It doesn't really matter which way you do it. Both ways could be correct because technically in Nairobi, it's 6 a.m. when, wait, hold on a second. Sorry, scratch that. My point is, you have to think about it intuitively. You can also sketch out a diagram, right? You can write London, Barcelona, Nairobi, San Diego, right? If San Diego's 8 hours behind, then that means you have to +8 to get to London, right? If Barcelona is an hour ahead, that means you have to -1 to get to London time, Nairobi -2 to get to London time, right? So anyways, the other group, some people had trouble understanding time zones, and I get it. I mean, it's not everybody has experienced sort of time zones before. So anyways, okay, continue, Gian, please. Sorry.
So I think like they again have, since it's mentioned that they are available during the local time, so 8 to 20. So probably like the common time zone between the 4 of them. Because San Diego is like, yeah, going according to the, I mean, that is what is confusing, I think.
So are you going to try to solve this without diagramming it?
Actually, I solved this without diagramming.
Okay, well, look, we should diagram it, right? You should always diagram, especially with questions like this, because you want to visualize what you're doing. So, you know, here's the time of it all, right? This is 12 noon. This is 24 o'clock and then 0, right? So London, Barcelona, Nairobi, San Diego. So if San Diego is 0 to 12, right? London is let's see, this is 6 o'clock, 9 o'clock, so just about London is here to like here, right? 8 to 8 p.m. there. Barcelona is 9 to 21, right? And then Nairobi is here. Okay, this is 22. This is 10. So does that make it easier for us to tell how many hours at least 3 of them are available? Can you tell me which hours at least 3 of them are available? And I'll sketch them in as you tell me.
I think from 10 to 12. Yeah, all 3 of them are available.
You guys speak louder one more time.
From 10 to 12 noon. Yeah.
10 to 12. So right here, you're seeing that at least 3 of them are available here, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's 2 hours. Okay. Are there any other times in which all 3 of them, at least 3 are available?
Yeah, again, I think that one, no.
Sorry?
I was thinking that 1 hour behind, so not that, no.
What do you mean 1 hour behind?
No, I got it wrong. This is, I think, the only time all 3 of them are, all 4 of them are available.
No, I know, but I'm working it out with you, right? Where you already told me that you see 3 of them overlapping at the same time here. So that means they're available. London guys available, Barcelona guys available, Nairobi guys available here. At least 3 of them are available. So that's 2 hours in which they're all available to chat because they're online from 8 to 8 local time, right? We've converted the times to London time. So at what other points are everybody available in this diagram? Gian, hello.
I think this is like the only time they are available.
How about right here? Like right here, are they not available? 3 people available?
Yeah, but then the one in San Diego isn't.
I see. But let's read the question one more time, right? It says, for how many hours during a 24-hour period are at least 3 of the 4 siblings? Does it say that all 4 of them have to be available?
No.
Yeah. But you understand you didn't read that part, but the general answer, if the question said how many hours are all 4 available, then the answer is 2, right? It's what you just showed me. So tell me how many hours at least 3 of them are available.
Yeah, so it would be like again from 12 to 8, so 8 hours and 10 hours. Yeah.
12 to 8 here, right?
Yeah.
So how many hours is that? 12 to 8?
8 hours, and then again 2 hours from the behind, so I think 10 hours.
That's 10. Okay. Are there any other hours in which at least 3 of them are available?
Yeah, I think this one from 8 again. So this is left.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
So the London, Barcelona, and the San Diego ones are also available in a common time zone. So probably that is also there.
You said London, Barcelona, and San Diego?
Yeah.
From what time to what time?
From 9 to it's 10, and then again 9 to 10, and again San Diego is 9.
Good. Okay. So this is one of the trick questions there, right? That's why they put 10 there, because they thought you wouldn't catch that. So that's 1 plus 2 plus 8 equals 11. Right? Answer is 11. Anyone have questions about that? Good. All right. Last question, and then we will go back to the common room. This one, a lot of people got wrong, actually. Can somebody do this real quick? Does anyone not understand this one? Let's just, anyone who doesn't understand it, let's go over it together. Okay, Fasai, let's do this one.
I just like, okay, I'm not sure if you're able to see this, but I think I'll just hold my iPad up. So I just split it up into L's, and then just
Yeah. You just draw a line where the L's meet, right? Yeah.
And then the one where you put them next to each other and it looks like this instead of this.
This one?
It's the answer. Yeah, just D. Yeah, that's all.
Yeah, I mean, why can I not turn this upside down?
Because it's tables, you wouldn't have a table
Good.
upside down.
Good. Well, someone in the last group talked about flipping the tables. So obviously, if you're setting up for a conference room, you don't want to flip the tables upside down. Okay.
Hey,
So
they did say add an unusual touch.
yes, I know it does say unusual touch, but yes, we should be realistic. And I think you guys did the tile question earlier, right? So those are things where, yes, like sometimes it's giving you way too much information and it doesn't matter what the actual object is. But other times you have to remember to remain logical, right? Like if it's a tile, you can't flip it, right? If you gotta really think about what it's like. If it's wallpaper, for example, you can't, like, unless it says it's reversible, don't flip it, right? Don't flip anything that can't be flipped. Okay. So I hope this was easy. Seriously,
Better than the queue.
if anybody has a question about this one, tell me now. Okay. Okay. All right. We'll go back to the main room. If you guys still have questions, we will go over it there. But anyone who needs to leave, they're excused when we get back to the main room. So hold on, and I'm gonna stop this, and here we go. Breakout rooms.
Like those all rooms.
Okay.
No, somebody's done it. Perfect.
Okay. Wow, we kept it under like 3 hours. That's good. Okay. Okay. Anyways, we are on our 4th workshop. The workshops added together are nearly 10 hours of material, and I hope you guys have found it useful. This is not necessarily the last workshop, but the hosts are obviously students at Oxford. We will get busy, and we won't necessarily have time to maybe do another one of these workshops. Not sure. I think we'll try our best to do it. It's 2 hours after all, but just saying. Anyways, we're here to help regardless. You guys have our email addresses. If you want to shoot us an email asking a question, or you need help walking through a question, we can help with that. And sometimes there are those questions that come up that you want extra assistance with. To prepare yourself, you should complete the homework as assigned. Don't necessarily jump ahead or fall behind. And a lot of people think that you can just do all the past papers and you'll be an expert at the TSA. And I can personally assure you that is not the case. Because when you do all the papers, what you end up doing is you kind of memorize the questions, and it's improving because you're memorizing the questions, and you haven't really realized you haven't developed a rigid and sort of consistent strategy to approach the questions. And that's not going to help you at all. So follow the syllabus that we've laid out. I think what we've laid out is very, very strategic. It takes it one step at a time. It ties it into the workshops where we talk about the individual questions. Self-study and analyze the questions. During these workshops, the hosts have been pushing you guys to explain why you got an answer wrong. And we're pushing you like that because that's exactly what they do on interview. On interview, you're going to give the wrong answer perhaps. And the tutors, they're not going to say, oh, that's not the right answer. They're going to be like, well, tell me why you got that answer, right? And then they're going to throw in new information. They're going to say, well, have you considered this? Or what happens if you change this number? Or what happens if you add in this information? And if you can't sort of respond to that, you're not going to cut it, So you gotta talk to yourself about the answers. If it's a critical thinking question, write down why A, C, D, E are not the questions, why it is B. Write a short explanation, just talk to yourself in your head, read it out loud, interact with the material. Past workshop videos are on YouTube. I'm sure that's going to reach a couple thousand views by the time the TSA comes around, but that's a reference source for you. We're not charging for it. We should be, but the goal of this was, from the get-go, was to not let the TSA be a barrier for entry because of somebody's access to preparation. And I know a lot of schools have full-time tutors and college advisors, university advisors that actually teach you how to do the TSA. And, you know, for the rest of us who didn't have that, we would have been more or less screwed and left to watch random YouTube videos. So this is sort of the only structured course out there that I know of that's free, I hope comprehensive, and you know, gets people to where they need to be. So anyways, yeah, if we don't meet again until after the 15th of October, then we all wish you good luck on your application. Check it for completeness, and just be yourself. The Oxford admissions process is very academically oriented, right? So it's not about playing piano at grade 8. It's about being engaged with your subject, passionate about it. And that means going into your interviews with a happy face, talking about your subject as if you were really interested in it. Those are all important components, and we will talk about those in future installments of the workshop. I'm pretty sure we'll have a future workshop, but I'm just saying I don't know if it's going to be in 3 weeks as we've been doing them thus far.
I'm sure we'll work out something for interview prep for those of you who get that far.
Yeah, because these are all things, I don't know, Milo, if you had an interview prep, but I did not, and it was intimidating as hell, and I was like, oh shoot, like how do I do this and everything. So same with the TSA, we're just trying to remove those barriers to entry, because I think what should be most important is in the application process is not whether or not you had access to tutoring. It should be how good you are at demonstrating your thoughts. And unfortunately, the TSA sometimes is more of a matter of understanding structure, as you've seen, than understanding how to express your aptitude. So yeah, okay, we will sort of informally conclude here. If anyone has questions, I'm personally able to stay behind for another like maybe 30 minutes maybe, and we can go over questions from the 2016-2017 paper. Cool. So anyone have any questions from the 16-17 paper that you want us to go over?
This isn't a TSA question, but what's Merton like? I'm just asking generally.
Merton,
Still struggling.
Merton's kick ass. Have you contacted any of the tutors yet?
Not yet, no.
Did you go to the open day?
I checked it out and I left some questions. I haven't opened the stream yet because I was busy with EPQ.
Okay. Yeah, I think I don't know. I think Merton's kick ass. We visited again like a week and a half ago. Everything looks nice. Merton is academically oriented. The people, I think, are very the ethos of the college is something you can be proud of. I think other colleges have like sketchy reputations, you know, not going to name colleges, but you know, some colleges are seen as snobby or elitist or you know, conservative oriented or stuff like that, or and also some colleges are located way too far from everything, right? Merton guarantees undergraduates housing on campus for all 3 years. It is located in a great location. The support structure is pretty firm in there. It's very academically prestigious. That doesn't necessarily mean it's academically rigorous. It just means the students are high achieving. And that means you have tutors that are going to really push you to do your best. And if you're going to university to learn, perhaps Merton is the best place to choose. Yeah. So, and I personally, you know, I know you guys saw me say this because I can't speak for the other hosts, but I don't think you should make an open application, because why risk going to a college you didn't want to go to, right? I'm sure everybody has an idea of which college they don't want to go to because of, for example, like there are some colleges where you have to hike like a day and a half to get there. I personally don't want that. And I also didn't want, for example, a super modern college. I wanted to get into a college where the architecture felt sort of, you know, historic and had that feel to it. I also didn't want to choose any colleges that didn't offer my course. So maybe that was a consideration. I think most of them offer PPE, but you know, that's another, anyways, my point is,
sorry.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead, Michael, sorry.
No, it's one of those things where there are some things that sort of apply to everyone, like do they offer your course, etc. But then it's very much personal criteria. Do you want to live in college for 3 years, or do you want to go and rent somewhere else with a bunch of friends and do that? Do you want to have a really good hall where you can go and eat nice meals for very, very little, or do you want the experience of cooking for yourself, etc., etc.? So
yeah, and you know, just for Catherine's college, I actually was previously rejected from Magdalen. Magdalen is super beautiful. There's a beautiful deer park. I had interviewed in person, so my dorm had a window that opened into the deer park, and the deer could come up to your window, and the sunrises are amazing. They have such a large college with beautiful grounds. And some people appreciate that because that's part of your sort of college experience, right? Like whether you have space, the feel of your college. And if you're in the UK, go visit, right? Like the colleges say they welcome prospective applicants. I know that's hard to go from Thailand to London right now, but yeah. Anyways, Diana, you're welcome.
Emma and Diana, I think
Diana, please.
Your hand up first.
Thank you. I do have an actual question, like TSA related. But first, Theo mentioned that he was asked why he picked his college. Like, what's a good answer for that? Can you go, oh, I saw it in Harry Potter and I thought it might be nice.
Wait, what? Harry Potter what?
That you saw the college in Harry Potter and you were like,
oh,
I'm going with that
is
one.
Merton in Harry Potter? I didn't know that.
I don't think so, but
all right.
Christchurch.
I don't think any of Harry Potter was filmed in Oxford. I think that
it was. New College Hall was the Great Hall, and Christchurch, the stairs up to their
right
were the stairs.
But it was the Christchurch dining hall isn't actually the Great Hall. I think that was the fact, because people, like the amount of tourists. Oh, by the way, that's another consideration, right? Some people don't want to go to the touristy colleges because you just have a bunch of people opening your dorm doors all the time, thinking that it's part of the tour. I'm serious. That's actually a problem, right? So that's another consideration. I chose Merton because I think it was I've been corrected on this, but I think it was the next after Magdalen. So I just randomly chose. I personally didn't look too much into it. I did know that they had accommodation on campus. And the reason why that's important to me is because I hardly wake up on time as it is, right? And if I had to wake up an hour and a half before a course, right, a tutorial, and I was all the way out, on some random street, and I had to commute every single morning, more or less, into school, I probably miss a lot of classes. And also, the rent in Oxford, I think, is nearly as expensive as London. So when you live in college, it's more or less subsidized. But when you live off of college, it's not.
Yeah, and also when you live in college, you're only paying for the 24 or 25 weeks a year that you're there, whereas if you're renting, paying for the year. But in an interview, I think just the architecture, the food, the atmosphere, any of those things. Don't say. I mean, you could sort of say, "Oh, I loved your research, and I was so drawn to you," but it might come across as a bit sort of trying to suck up a little bit. So I think just be honest. When you're looking at colleges, presumably you're going to come across something that makes you think, "Oh, this is the college I want to go to." And as long as it was in Harry Potter, go for it. Just say that. But also, they won't judge you on that. I think that's as much they're interested in why you chose it as. Then I don't think they're going to sort of rule you out if you say something. Just yeah.
I don't think it's that common a question. I wasn't actually asked it. I was just saying, I think prepare an answer just in case they do ask you, because, you don't want to be stumped saying, I heard it was really nice, Have something concrete that you can say that the atmosphere is really friendly. You saw their JCR page on Instagram and, it seemed really welcoming. So I'd talk about something like that.
Yeah, and if you choose Merton, you can say that you did this workshop series with us, and
so Yo-Yo was just so fantastic. I wanted to be at the
yeah,
same college
Theo,
as him.
Milo, Lottie, we're all from fucking Merton. You know, we're repping here. Anyways, yeah.
So what was your TSA question?
Yeah. Okay.
Oh wait, did Emma have a general question or a TSA question?
Mine was just like a general one.
Please, let's do that one first.
Yeah.
So one of my teachers was telling us that by choosing sort of the right college, you can increase your chance of getting into Oxford by up to like 4 times. So they said go for ones like at the bottom of the Norrington table. Don't go for like the pretty one. How true is that? Because she seems to have like a lot of experience in getting people in, but like my favorite college that I really want to go for is quite high up the Norrington table, and do I really want to go to one at the bottom? Like,
which one are you considering?
I really like Worcester. I think it's really pretty. It's very sport focused and there's a lot of green space. It's also like a 2-minute walk from the city centre, so
That's nonsense. Like,
Yeah,
okay,
it's not true.
maybe a tiny bit.
It's a tiny bit. It is a tiny bit. Don't discount what they said, because that's
Okay, but like,
actually-
come on.
It's a nice
Okay.
college, and it's close to the business school. There are reasons to apply to Worcester. I was going to apply for Worcester if I didn't apply to Worcester.
But generally, you can't game the application system, because if one college gets too many candidates, they reallocate people, they pull people. Essentially, if you look at their website, what Oxford say is, no matter which college you apply to, we take the best candidates that apply across the university. So if you're one of the top, if it's E&M 100 candidates, you will get in no matter which college you apply to, is essentially what they say. So obviously there's probably a little bit of, if you apply to one of the super competitive ones, you're making it a little bit more difficult, but I wouldn't worry about that too much. I would just go for...
You're talking about such a, it's not like, for example, the variations between courses, right? Like if you applied for philosophy and French instead of PPE, you could perhaps game the numbers that way. But look, your tutor or teacher advisor is partially correct, because if you look at some of the disclosures on how they reallocate. So reallocate means, for example, everybody wants to go to Balliol and Brasenose for PPE. Totally overrated. But that's just one of the things, and they're always the most oversubscribed every single year. The reallocation process does have a little bit of kind of like a disadvantage to anyone who's reallocated in it. If you look at the documents, it does describe that, but you're talking, it's not a 4x advantage. If anything, we're talking like a 1, 2, 3% advantage, right? And you'd be playing games with the process. And you risk going to a college at the bottom of the Norrington table, and they're at the bottom for a reason. So yeah.
I guess the distinction to draw is maybe that, like, so say these workshops were so great and Yo-Yo was so persuasive that everyone applied to Merton. If you applied to Merton and got reallocated, then obviously you're not going to get to Merton, right? So like if there's like a really popular college that you kind of like as much as like a not very popular college, then it might be worth not going to that less popular college, not because you're like more likely to get into Oxford, just because you're more likely to get into that college. But like, I don't think that would happen very often. And like your chance of getting into Oxford are basically the same no matter where you apply. So I wouldn't worry about it.
So would you say it's worth going for Worcester? They let in 3 E&M students a year. Should I do it anyway?
Yeah.
If you want to go there, then I would just go, yeah, I would
absolutely
100%.
Okay, thank you.
Your university graduation certificate will say University of Oxford on it. It will, I don't think it says your college. And from what I've heard, everybody likes their college. Okay, like no one is like, oh no, I'm at Hilda's, you know. Maybe that's your initial reaction, but anyways, anyone have a general question, Michelle?
Yeah, so is there like a difference between the way the course content depending on which college you apply to?
No difference at all. It's exactly, lectures are centralized by the university, and tutorials are done by tutors at the college. So while you might have slightly different discussions based off the tutor's interests, they will still be following a set plan, and you will still learn everything you need to go. You need to know. It might just be the tangents that you go down are different depending on the college, but whichever college you go to, you will learn everything in a PPE degree or an E&M degree or whatever.
Especially for PPE and E&M, there is so much collaboration between the various colleges that it will definitely be the same. And actually, I think we use the exact same. The economics department has even like unified a core textbook that they use for the entire course. So it's you're going to get the same learning experience too. Yeah, again, guys, college choice is really more about your personal preferences more than trying to game the numbers or trying to game the academics of it all. It's really a personal choice.
Okay, thank you.
No worries. So, Diana, shall we do the TSA question?
Yes, please.
Okay.
I had a little trouble with question 48
On which
the
year?
2017 paper.
All right. I think I remember that one. That one we were about to do, but not enough people sort of had trouble with it. 48, huh? Oh,
This one about words in a word game.
Yeah, you want to do that one?
Give me a second.
Okay, let me share my screen.
Right, I've got to head off now, guys, but thank you all for coming. So,
thanks, Theo.
Yeah.
Okay, see you later.
And by the way, anyone who's still here, you can head off whenever you want. Just
we're not holding you. We're just here to help if anyone wants to stay behind.
Oh, that's
Okay, so wait, Milo, you want me to do this one, or do you want to do this one?
Well, I've started looking at it. Oh, yeah, I think I can take this. You might have to help me out as we go along.
Go ahead. I got it.
So the way I'd approach this is, first thing basically we need to find when there's, so if we know, let's say tier has a certain value, right has a certain value, tree has a certain value, and rat has a certain value, we can work out that, so we can, it's sort of a question of matching ones that have very similar letters and trying to calculate and then to assigning them. So the first one I spotted was rat has R, A, and T, and tier has T, E, A, and R. So they have all of the same letters except that tier has an extra E. So that means that you can definitely calculate the value of E because you can do tier minus rat. So once you've got the value of E, you can work out the value of wait, sorry, let me think about this for a second. You can work out the value of,
maybe.
Sorry, what was that?
Of A, maybe.
Yeah.
Then,
yeah. So I think if you used tree, you could work out the difference. If you know that E is worth something, it would be the difference between E and A. And since you know E is a certain number, you could work out the value of A. That makes sense, I think.
Tree, hold on, I'm like one step behind you. So tree minus 2 E's, right? And then you're left with TR, and then you subtract TR from rat?
Yep.
Okay, yeah.
And then you could work out the value of I, because right, you could minus the E off it to get rit, and then compare that to rat, and get rid of the R and the T, it's A to I. Then after that,
isn't that all the letters?
Yeah, I think that's all the ones you can do. 3 maybe.
So we calculated A, R, T, E, I.
Yep. So no, you haven't calculated R and T. You've only calculated E
Oh,
A.
oh, I see. Okay, yeah. Because
Oh,
RT, we've always worked together as
Yeah,
as a unit.
exactly.
Okay, right.
Yep. I think that's all one you can calculate because R and T are in every one, so you can't work out. So it's the 3 letters. And having
I
just
don't know. I don't know if this helps. That like the way you're doing it. I did like a little table with columns for each of the letters, and then you put an X in the column for each of the letters it has, and then you can just look along your table. And basically, any row where you've got like all the words but one have that letter, or just one word has that letter, you can figure it out.
yes, that's.
But it's just formalizing what you just explained, basically.
But yeah, having just checked the answers, D. So 3 is the right answer. So.
Does that make sense? Or
yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Does anyone else have TSA questions or general questions?
For question 36 on the 2017 paper, it's like to do with like ferries, I think it was.
Fergus Castle.
Didn't we do this one on the workshop 2?
Yeah, we did this before, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't go to the workshop too, so I can go watch it back though. It's fine.
If you watch the last workshop, that could, but we could do it now.
Yeah, let's just do it now. Why not? Yeah, let's just do it real quick. Well, Michelle, will you walk us through it?
Yeah. What I did, I kind of guessed this one, so, but I sort of started out by like from 9:05, and then it gets to the other.
So it leaves what at 9:05?
The mainland.
Okay, so mainland, right? 9:05 departure. Okay.
And then if it takes 40 minutes, it'll get there at 9:45.
Okay.
But then it has to like wait 5 minutes before it can go back.
It has to wait 5 minutes. There's a turnaround time of 5 minutes. So instead of putting 40 minutes, we can just say the journey time is actually 45 minutes per direction, right? Because it's 40 plus 5. So there's no need to calculate it separately, right? You can just put 9:50, right? So it technically arrives 9:50 because you can't depart at any time before that. There's the turnaround time. Okay.
Yeah, and then I calculated like the time, what time it would get back by, like back to the mainland. So that would be 10:30.
10:30.
It would be, yeah, it would get back at 10:30, and then 5 minutes later would be ready to go again. But that's actually, you don't actually need to do that particularly to work out the answer to this one.
Oh yeah. Well, look, it's asking you what the minimum number of boats needed is, because just think about this real quick. If you leave the mainland at 9:05, let's just call this the red boat, right? Red boat leaves at 9:05. But then it says here that on the island side, so the island side is the other side, that it leaves at 15 past the hour starting at 9:15. Do we need a second boat for the 9:15 service from the island to the mainland? Michelle? Yeah, right. So you would need a second boat here. You need 9:15 headed in this direction, arriving at what time? 10 o'clock, right? 45 minutes, right? And then the same goes for, can you continue working on it from here?
So then you wouldn't need a second boat for the 10:05 one?
Exactly.
The 10:05 is lots in advance, so work through each service as we go. It's the best way to do it, I think.
So you need another one for the 9:25.
Exactly.
Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention this, but you guys can bring different colored pens to the examination if you want to organize your thoughts using different colors. That's one way to do it. Okay, so 9:25 arrives at what, 10:10, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So then you don't need another one for the 10:50.
Okay. Well, like Milo said, you should work through them sort of sequentially. Yeah.
So you need another one.
And after you work through it sequentially, you can determine which one you need and which one you don't need.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you need another one for the 945?
945. How come you can't use the first one from the island? The blue boat. How come you can't use the first service at 945?
Oh yeah, you could use that one.
No,
No, you can't, because it doesn't arrive until 10.
You said that is Yo-Yo. I think you said in a confusing. Don't worry.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Michelle, you can't because this service arrives at 10. So you can't use this boat for the 945 service.
So
yeah.
You do need to.
Sorry, I was trying to challenge you and see if you stayed resolute with your answer. But anyways, so arrives at 10:30. Okay.
So then, you wouldn't need one for the 10:15, but you need one for the 10:35. Oh no, you wouldn't need one for the 10:35. Pardon.
What about the 9:35 one?
Work sequentially. Work sequentially from here.
You wouldn't need one for the. Oh wait, no, sorry, I'm getting confused between them.
I think a good way to like organize this was like, for me, I just drew 2 columns and just wrote down all the times that the boats would leave, and then just draw arrows, and then cross out the ones, because I think this is like, oh my god, everything's like everywhere. So,
yeah, I think we did that last workshop.
I think we did that workshop too. This was more as a workshop too. Here, we'll just do it like this. Hold on. Okay, so Lee's mainland. Oops. Mainland at 9:05, 9:25, 9:45, 10:05, etc. Right, and then island leaves at what, 9:15, 9:35, 9:55, 10:15, etc. And what Fasai was saying was, if the 9:05 arrives at 9:50, it can be reused for this one, right?
Yeah.
And that's it. That's the answer, right? So that means these two need to be original, and then let me think. These two need to be their own boats. This needs to be its own boat. 9:25.
When does 9:15 get back is what you need to work out. So it goes back to 10. So it can only do the 10:05 service.
Yeah, that's fine.
Does that make sense, Michelle? What we if you draw an arrow from the 9:15 to the 10:05, that might. There we go.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Okay. Yeah, a lot of the times it's about diagramming your work, and there's multiple ways to do it. I mean, there's messy ways like I just did, but there's also the clear ways like Masai suggested, but however you get to the answer. Well, I think one of the things that you could have really saved time on was combining the 40 and 5, because I know that like that's just an extra calculation that takes extra time. And if you think about the total journey time, that might help a little bit. There have actually been quite a few questions like that. I think you guys remember from our practices. There's been a lot where it says like, I need to brush my teeth in the morning, and I also need to put on my clothes, and I also need to put on my shoes. And it gives you like 3 separate values. If you just combine the activities as one thing, it will make it quicker for you. Nahira, you have a question? Michelle, Fasai, Catherine?
I was just saying to see if anyone had any questions that I didn't really think of.
Oh, okay.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Anyone else? Questions, TSA? Let me take a look at if there's any other interesting ones that.
I think you just went past one that I was so confused about. Page 20, it might have been.
I'm sorry, I've got to go, but
there we go.
I'm sure Yo-Yo and Catherine will work
Yes, we will take good
Yeah,
care.
sure.
Sorry.
So question 32.
Oh, this sucks.
This baffles me.
Catherine, can you do this one? I honestly, I remember getting this one wrong multiple times during my practices.
Okay, I haven't looked at it yet. I can look at it now. Sure.
Okay.
So one trading instructor before got one wrong. So like intuitively, it feels like a good strategy would be looking at the squares that are like in common, because they all got one square wrong, right? And one of them got it exactly right. So there's going to be like a one square difference between the, you know what I mean? There's going to be some combination of shaded squares that all of them are like one square different from.
So we start by shading the squares which are exactly the same amongst all 5.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful. I'm just trying to think if there's an easier way of that. I'm assuming there's a faster way of doing it than just cranking through them all and just comparing them all to each other. But okay, let me think. Is it helpful to, so one thing you could try is you could say assume A is correct. So that means that if A is correct, then all the other ones will be exactly one square different from A.
Okay.
And if that's false, then it means A can't be correct. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
And then you can crank through go through all the options like that, I guess. So like, for example, A and B, like B has.
Once we shaded in the 3 squares here, we only have to represent the other 2, right?
Right.
Yeah. So should we try the A by brute force?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Okay. So if you so what Catherine said was assume that these 2 squares were the correct answer, right? And that everyone else got one wrong. So this guy shaded this one wrong, but then for C already both of these are wrong.
Yeah, so that means we know like A can't be right. Hopefully.
Yeah.
If this is like works. Okay. All right. So then yeah. So say you say B is correct. Sorry.
Right. Okay.
So I guess if you say B is correct, like that works for A because A is one different. It's not going to work for C again. So we've got to reject that. If we say C is correct, it's not going to work for A. Huh. Sorry, I'm going through this and I'm like, it's actually going to work. Is this actually going to work?
I think it does work. I've gone through them all really quickly, and I think it's the method works.
Okay.
It's E. It's E.
It's E.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
Because shit. What's a good way of explaining this?
The other ones are exactly.
Oh yeah, no, I can see that. Yeah, they all have one square in common with E.
It's E based on your method.
Yeah. Let me check the actual answers.
It's E because if you look.
There you go.
Okay,
Yeah, because they all have of the ones they all have 3 in common, and then of the ones they've all got left over, they all have 1 in common with E. If that makes sense. So they all deviate 1 from the correct answer, which is what the instruction said. And that's not true if any of the other ones are the correct answer. So the correct answer has to be E. Yeah, so I don't know if that was helpful.
That one sucks, but
very helpful.
Yeah.
I think there was shit. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna check the responses for the
sure.
20.
Also, there always seems to be like 1 or 2 questions on each year's paper which don't seem to like the strategy doesn't seem to like generalize. There's always a couple of ones that the way you solve it is pretty different from all the other questions. So like I wouldn't worry too much if there's 1 question that you're like super stuck on, because at the end of the day, like missing 1 question on the TSA is not going to kill you, right? And sometimes like the cost of solving it is like high enough, like the time cost is high enough that you might as well just skip it and try other ones. Like I remember I spent like 6 minutes on one question in the TSA because I like panicked because I couldn't figure out how to solve it. And like in hindsight, it would have been better just to go back and like, you know, like pick a different question and check my answers.
Did you guys do 15? Can you see this on my screen? I don't know if you can see.
Yeah, I can see it.
And then I don't know if you guys did 31 or 30, 31. Oh wait, this is our paper. 31, 40.
I did get 15 right, but I thought it was quite hard.
Sorry?
I did get it right, but I thought it was quite hard.
Okay. This is which is a conclusion that could be drawn. So this is drawing a conclusion, right? It's not identify a main conclusion. So what are our strategies? Can't be in the passage, right? It has to be something new. And everything in the passage should be regarded as a premise for one of the answers for the argument. So let me read it real quick. Okay, so it's saying that warn that no perfect alternative exists, whether using fabric, blah, 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 whether using, okay, yeah, so it's saying that people talk about plastic bags all the time of single-use bags. There's obviously problems. They end up as litter, they kill animals, and people ban them, but the experts say that no perfect alternative exists. Manufacturing bags with more resources definitely is not necessarily the best trade-off because you're using more quantities of natural resources than the plastic single-use bags. So the conclusion, okay. Can someone walk through this one? Diana, do you want to walk through this one?
Yeah, actually, I would like to. So I've been preparing for this moment, watching all the workshops. Encouraging consumers to change their behavior is not an effective solution to environmental problems isn't really a conclusion because it doesn't talk about consumers, encouraging consumers to do something. It just says they were banned. Product bans are never an effective solution. This is one of those really strong conclusions that isn't really in line with the arguments made in the past because it doesn't say, oh, we should all never ban anything, let's crack down on the banning of products or whatever to justify that strong of a conclusion. The solution to environmental problems lies in limiting human population growth. It doesn't say anything of the sort. Recycled paper bags should be used instead of plastic bags. I think it says at some point that no perfect alternative exists. So, exactly. And then we're just left with E.
Yeah, okay, yeah, population growth. Is it E? Yeah, I would have chose E too. This is kind of a weird.
It's E, yeah.
E, right? Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit of a stretch, but you know, like I think you just got to remember the strategy. The strategy always works, right? The strategy for this one is make sure everything supports the conclusion, right? The conclusion is talking about considering the manufacturing processes, length of use, and disposal. And basically everything in the passage preceding was discussing that. So it qualifies for our criteria of making sure that everything flows to the conclusion. So that was 15. Maybe I'll do one more, and then if we don't have any questions, we'll call it a day here. I can stay personally, but I don't know if you guys have more more questions. See, 42, 43. Yeah, let's do 43 real quick. 43, a lot of people didn't get that right. On this page. Catherine, have you one?
Sorry, yeah, I can see it. I haven't looked at it yet. I'm just go through it. I don't know the answer. I have like an approach to it that I can talk about.
Do you wanna lead someone in the chat, maybe here?
Yeah, that'd be great. Would anyone like to talk through how they're gonna solve this?
I could do this one.
Yeah, great.
So I sort of set this up using like simultaneous equations.
Yeah.
So I did one for like the total number of creatures. So A plus O plus U equals 45. And then one for the number of legs. So 6A plus 4O plus 3U equals 222. And then I like eliminated the 3U. So I times the top equation up by 3 and then took it away. So I ended up with 3A plus O equals 87.
Wait, what?
Oh, 3A plus O equals 87.
Oh, I see. You know, I actually don't know simultaneous equations that well. Okay, anyways, equals, let's see, 3, 4, 15, 135. And then you minus like this, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I see. Interesting. 3A plus O equals 87.
Yeah. And then because the Yerps don't have any horns, I did like a calculation with the number of horns for the ARPs and the ARPs. So then I set up another one which was 3A plus 2O equals 99.
3A 3A plus what?
2O equals 99. Because that's the total number of horns. And then I took them away and I got the number of ARPs, which is 12.
I didn't know you could do that. Okay, interesting.
Yeah, maybe it was like a fluke, but that's how I ended up with the answer.
You know what? If you get the right answer, it's the right answer. It equals 12.
Yeah, and then I subbed that back into the equation to get 3A plus 24 equals 99. And then I solved for A to get 25 ARPs. And then added them together and took them away from 45 to get 8, which was the number of ARPs.
Okay, so U equals 8.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't know if that was really long-winded. It was quite long-winded, but yeah.
You know what I did? I just brute forced it. I started multiplying through. You know, I got to be honest. Like, yeah, I don't know simultaneous equations that well. and this all looks like a fluke to me personally. You did this exactly the right way, but yeah, if you didn't know how to do this, the other way to do it is just to brute force that stuff. Start with A and start working through it.
Luckily, the answer is A. So
Yeah, I don't know if I'm actually not sure if this is simultaneous equations. It kind of is, but there's like a slight difference to it because there's like one with like the number of pence from like a couple past papers ago in like a previous workshop. I think that I did the same way.
The number of money for the phone booth.
Yeah, and I did it the same sort of way and ended up with the right answer.
Yeah, no, it's this. Wait, Catherine, this is simultaneous equation, right?
Yeah. Like this is a little bit of like a complicated way, but yeah, it is.
Yeah, no, you had it right. I mean,
but yeah, it's a good method.
Yeah.
I've been taught that method to do simultaneous equations too. So I think it's like the elimination method. Usually you choose substitution, but here, to be fair, the elimination I think is probably the easy way to do it.
Does anybody have any other questions they want to do?
Yeah, it's like a critical thinking one, but could you go through question 34?
On 2017?
Yes.
34, let me see how many people got that one wrong. Okay. Television has had an adverse effect on family communication. Why? Because instead of talking together as they did in the past, families now tend to sit around the small or not so small screen. They watch rather than discuss. They are passive rather than active. Instead of participating, they are content to be entertained. Consequently, television dampens people's ability to think for themselves. So what's the main conclusion?
I was actually debating between the first and the last sentence.
I think, Catherine, do you think it's A? I mean, the first sentence?
Wait, sorry. Do you want the conclusion on the floor?
The conclusion. Isn't that the television has had an adverse effect on family communication?
I think that consequently, I think that's signposting the conclusion.
Yeah, maybe.
They have this initial like thesis, television has had an adverse effect. They give some reasons, and then they try and deduce this conclusion about thinking for yourself.
Right, I see. I was trying to put it through the therefore test. You're right. It consequently kind of does signpost the whole thing, right?
Right.
Which of the following identifies a flaw in the argument above? The initial assertion is contradicted by the conclusion. The reasons are not relevant. It makes a generalization on the basis of a particular example. It's not C. It assumes that what was right in the past is right for the present. What? I think it's B.
Right, yeah, it is, yeah.
But B, you know, the reason why we had a hard time telling what the main conclusion was because the argument was flawed.
Yeah, exactly, right. Because at the start they say they have all these reasons about the adverse effects, which is like you kind of think the conclusion is going there, and then the conclusion is like totally different. Yeah.
I see. Okay, because I was like, you know what I did? I was looking at the last sentence, right, Fasai, and I was thinking like, okay, television dampens people's ability to think for themselves. And then I did the therefore test, right? I said, therefore, it had an adverse effect on family communication. And I was even thinking to myself, I'm like, wow, that's a little bit of a stretch, right? Like, why would independent thinking have an adverse effect on family communication, right? So I thought the whole thing would say like, consequently, television has reduced the time we spend with our loved ones or something like that, right? So B is, I think, yeah, this one you shouldn't overthink. Only like 2 people got this one wrong on the example. So don't overthink it. It's B.
Yeah, I think I overthought it because I was just trying to find I was trying to think of the conclusion. I was like, how is this? Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
What did you put?
I'm sorry.
What did you put?
I ended up putting D because I thought, oh, they're saying that before they were talking and now they don't, and it dampens the ability to think for themselves. I was like, oh, then yeah, I thought that was wrong, but
Well, generally speaking, unless it's using the, well, I think it's a given that we're talking about this change between the past and the present, right? It's saying what's going on now. And it's not necessarily saying that it's right or wrong.
Right, yeah, I think that's the important thing.
Yeah, you know, like I think that's that's a strong word. What was right in the past is for the present. It's not necessarily making a moral call on it, right? Like, oh, this is right, this is wrong, this is ethical, this is unethical. It's saying that what the effect of it was. It's not talking about what ought to be.
Yeah, the passage is descriptive. It doesn't make any like normative claims. Even if you think the argument is correct, it doesn't say like, you know, not thinking of yourself as good or like family communication is good. So I mean, D can't be right because D is saying, you know, there's a normative claim here and there wasn't one.
Yeah.
But I think the first thing that you guys were talking about how there is no conclusion, I think that's a really good like clue.
Yeah. Okay, so it's just you and Nahir and little Catherine. Any other questions? Anything from 2016 paper?
No, I don't think so. But I think you've convinced me to like apply to Merton.
Oh wow, okay, that's cool.
Show you power.
You should like contact the tutors and just say hello, you know, because like that's a great way to get your name on the radar. And just let them know that, hey, like maybe, hey, I watched your open day, I had a follow-up question, right? And just ask them a follow-up question, and that's a great way to just start a conversation. And because so many people go through this, and when they like go to interview, that's their first time talking to their tutors, and that could be intimidating. So if you had some contact with your tutors before, you can even request like a Zoom call, like say, hey, can I like maybe talk with you guys? I just had some questions about the process, blah, 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 that you guys didn't answer at the open day. You know, it's a great place to do that.
Yeah, I think I might ask a few questions, but I'll watch the open day first.
Right.
Nahir, any 2016 questions?
Nope, not at all.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we'll wrap it up here, and thanks for staying so long, Catherine. Appreciate that.
That's all right. No worries.
Yeah, we helped a lot of people. I think the number of people that have signed up for the workshop, which is nearing 100. I know we don't get that attendance, but people receive the emails, and it's good. Hopefully, we'll see a noticeable increase in TSA scores this year. I'd actually be interested in knowing that. I'd actually be interested in knowing the TSA scores of participants versus the general average.
Right, yeah, it would be interesting.
Yeah. Anyways, okay. Have a great day, guys, and a great evening. And
thank you.
See you guys later. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming, guys.
Bye.
See you.